Stew One International Networks LLC presents Uncle Stew, the old man on the block.
What the kosher clinician said was, a hopeless man is a broken man. A hopeless man is a broken man. This is a very deep and passionate statement, a deep and passionate claim. But this claim is very personal to me. Let's talk about it. I was once this man. I was once a man who had to sit here and reflect back on my life, and while I've had many successes, I've had many failures. While I've created great paths for many people, I've also left a trail of destruction.
Uncle Stew, can you hear me?
Yeah, we still on live. But I'm going to tell you that sometimes we need help, my brothers, just like I needed help. And a lot of times we're crying out for help, but we really don't know where to get that help from. And you know, there comes a time when a man must take a stand against the immoral acts of other men, regardless of the consequences he may have to face.
Phone.
Welcome to Emancipated Studio. Welcome my uncle, Uncle Stew, the old man on the block.
What's going on, sir? How you feeling?
How's it going, Uncle Stew?
Hey, doing good, doing good. You know, especially after the day we had today. I love that play.
Yeah, today was a good day. I really enjoyed it playing stuff.
Definitely. And I can't wait till one day we'll be able to go back and see them. To let everybody know in the chat, Intentional Millionaire and I and Brown Eyes went to go see Blind Guy, his wife, their life. And they had an awesome play that they did. They actually did a live, so it was good. What's going on, Miss B Finesse? What's going on, Jet Kayla, Real Talk Daily? What's going on, Brown Eyes and Wally? We basically gonna be doing the talk back. I dropped the stream. Ironically, the two people that was real active in the last stream wasn't here. What we're going to try to do next time, Intentional Millionaire, is try to put the video up in StreamYard and allow the video to play in StreamYard, and then we're going to see whether or not that's going to be successful, and that way people won't get confused. Salute to you, Mr. Vaughn. Basically, if you watch the video was really myself and Intentional Millionaires, our experience with Red Pill Rage. For those of you that didn't see the video, I'll just sum it up this way. There's a narrative that says most of the guys that go through red pill rage is because they went after low life women. They went after these no good women. And red pill rage can come from good women. Intentional Millionaire's woman was an engineer. A woman that I had 3, but at least 2 were college graduates. So we can't always throw certain narratives out and then make it appear, that it only comes from one group of men or one types of women. Now, there is if you've seen the video, red pill rage will allow you to heal up. And again, my whole argument is for us to heal up instead of arguing up. But we also got to recognize exactly what healing looks like. And a lot of times we want to run out here with our college degrees or our theories or our Bibles, and we want to beat everybody up, yet we don't even know what we're looking at. We don't even know what we're hearing. We have no clue what exactly a person is trying to say. Sometimes people can't express themselves the way you think they should be able to express themselves, because a lot of people may not have a vocabulary of feelings and emotions. They don't have those vocabularies. They don't have those areas. So all they know how to do is use talking points because it is the simplest way for them to communicate. When they are trying to navigate the pain, but at the same time, they're trying to navigate their healing. They're trying to heal. Now, I don't represent the red pill community. I'm quite sure if they look at this video, there's probably a bunch of talking points that they got that I didn't even put in this video. There's probably arguments they have that I didn't even put in this video, because what I'm arguing in this video is, please pray for them and don't condemn them. Because at my age, I heard women talking the same exact way all throughout the 90s. Same way on television, on cable, on records, on videos. They was talking the same way, and no one said anything to them. And now that these men are basically doing the same thing, they need the same space that everyone or every woman has ever got when they was hurting. Most of these men, they don't have therapists. They don't have groups that they can go to. They can't even express their feelings or emotions anywhere without fear of losing their job or losing their home or losing their child. We have to come to a reality of what is going on. It's not about a blame game. You have to recognize what's happening. But at the same time, we got to start talking healing up. Stop telling these men to level up and heal up. And they need that here. Salute, salute. It is an honor, Shannon Raw. It is an honor, sir, to have you in my chat. I hope, Shannon, you got 5 minutes of your time, sir. You are most needed for this conversation. Shannon Ross is not only a man that probably has more understanding of the red pill community, but I recognize him also as my Army sergeant. So salute to you, sir. I dropped the link for anybody that just want to come up and talk. April Rains, we thank you so much for your email. It was an honor. It was a blessing. Thank you. We are in the stage of living and healing, and we thank you for what you blessed us with in that email. Thank you. Chicago Rilla, salute to you, sir. I just did a live video basically talking about me and Intentional Millionaire's red pill moment, and I had a red pill rage. But I'm basically saying that I'm not representing that community, but I'm trying to give people an understanding of that community, understanding of what that looks like. And some of these men is trying to heal. Some of these men are trying to set boundaries, just like we say to women to set boundaries. You know, they may not have the vocabulary that they need to really express everything, but sometimes we don't give people the room and the space to heal. Okay, sir, respectfully, I understand. I'm gonna definitely try to stay up, and I've dropped the link several times because we want to hear what anybody got to say. In the live, we had a whole lot of communication. I mean, in the video, we had a whole lot of communication. Now that we live, we ain't got nobody we talking to. Let's have the conversation. Mr. Vaughn, I'll even welcome you up at this time, although you probably didn't see the video. And yes, I'm going to do it a little bit different next time, and we're going to see how that goes. What's going on, Miss B Finesse?
Hey, Uncle Stew, how are you doing today? Hey,
All right.
Intentional.
Did you see the live that blind guy, his wife, their life did?
I didn't see all of it, but yes, I did.
Yeah. So
Hey, Miss
whenever
B.
you see
Hey,
the
Miss
beat
B.
up and the
Hey,
finger
Miss B.
down,
Finesse.
that's our VA gang sign.
Hey,
Hey,
Intentional Millionaire, ¿cómo estás?
Usted.
Listen, first and foremost, Uncle Stew, shout
Yeah.
out. You almost to 600. First, we want to clap that up.
Oh,
You are almost
appreciate
to
you.
600. I'm so proud of you. So I want to give a shout out to that.
Thank you.
Uncle Stew, yeah, this is a dynamic topic, Unc, because I really and you've been on my platform and we've kind of grazed over this conversation, but just me understanding what red pill rage is and me coming newly into the platform and just sitting back, Unc, listening, escuchan, that's listen in Spanish, just listening to the men, Unc. I did not have that, I guess you could say, normal average woman response to it because as you know, as an educator, you kind of find ways to sit back and listen and try to understand before you can jump out and point your finger. And the narrative, I had never heard it to that level. And when I heard it, Uncle Stewart, I understood that there was purpose for it because it would not have a space if there wasn't purpose. And my biggest thing was, now that we feel it, now that you're there, what is the call to action, as I say all the time on my platform? What goes forward from that? So I would like clarification on that, Uncle Stu, as far as when men get to the red pill rage point, and after you guys realize you're there, what is the dynamic change, and is that what is being shown on platforms? Is my question. As I'm new to YouTube, I say now maybe 2.5 months, 3, Uncle Stu.
Okay. I like the way it, and I'm getting ready to produce that video as soon as I can get permission to add something to that video. But for me, Jonathan Barron said it best. You go from red pill rage to red pill, and I'm gonna say red pill healing, which means learning how to take accountability for the choices that you make, and the decisions that you make.
Okay.
Something that Shannon Ross is doing and I'm going to be doing. And I already told him I'm stealing the idea, so he gave me his permission to do so. A lot of us, at certain points of our life, we gotta look at maybe choices we made. We gotta look at discipline, you know. And this goes with no matter what kind of woman you dealt with.
Facts.
Well, I don't like to say that all the women we dealt with was for the streets, because that's a bad narrative. A lot of us needs to heal up because either A, we didn't know, or B, we didn't listen, or C, we really loved the one we wanted to be with. We had love.
Hey, can I ask you a question?
Sure,
Just kind of introspecting on this concept because
sure.
this is very intricate to me. Do you believe, because I heard somebody talking with this and saying that earlier today that when they had grown up, their uncles, their dad, all the men in their life push that aspect of go out there, get as much meow as you could say as you want. Make sure you get as many women as you want. If you don't get that, then you're not looked at as quote unquote a man. Do you feel like you or intentional millionaire felt that aspect of that ideal of what manhood was, and then it might have led to, I guess you could say, you making a choice or not really thinking about it,
No, I can't say that I have ever had that narrative. For me, I've never had that narrative. And if we stay on, I Chicago really says facts. So,
Oh, okay.
I
Because
don't
I've
know
heard
if
that
he's
from
at
men.
work. Now, for Chicago Rilla, he said it's facts. I can only speak for me. For me, that wasn't the narrative.
Okay.
But I can't speak for all men and what they may have been told or
Correct.
taught.
Correct. And I like your shirt, Shout out to your shirt. I like
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
that. Changing it on
Thank
up.
you.
What about you, intentional? Have you heard that dynamic, or did you ever experience that? The ideal of men having been taught this trope that they need to get as many women as they want, and that's kind of the lifestyle. And then ergo, it might lead to the ideals of what some men feel or the situations they might get themselves into.
I don't know if his mic is on or if he's having trouble because he would have normally responded by now.
Hey, can
But
you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Repeat that one more time. I'm sorry about that. I was going in and out. I'm still driving.
oh shoot. Well, I just kind of generally wanted to the same thing Uncle Stu responded to because I was asking both of the men on the panel. Is it ideal? Because Uncle had just elaborated on the last thing he said was de-discipline. So it made me come to the idea of I remember somebody speaking earlier today in the chat, and they were saying that the fact that a lot of men, especially around them and in their environment, have been pushed to have the ideal to not have the discipline to go out there, get as many as you want and you can. And so then they get this construed concept of what it is to be with a lady, I guess you could say, and then you get caught up in those bad choices. So I was just wondering, is that something that you've heard or experienced, or if that's like a truth dealing with men coming up in our community?
Well, I think it's some of both. I think you got to kind of look at the dynamics of just the man and the human being and environment. Because
Mm-hmm.
when you think about the environment for most men kind of persuade our decision making when we are younger. That's why it's so important, and why when you got to capture a young man when he's at his youngest age, because you want to shape that outlook. So I would say it's for
Mm-hmm.
both.
Mm-hmm.
But when you think about just the red pill rage, I think for most men, even for myself, I think the red pill rage and just red pill alone, the red pill moment comes from the fact that most men actually felt and had a real strong feeling for the person they was dealing with. Because let's be honest, most men, especially when you're younger, their love to me is stronger than a woman's, because they really buy into and believe into the woman just based off of what's actually in front of them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So because of that, when they find out that it's not what they thought it was, because they really go in with the feeling side. And that's something that most men may not say, but most men really go in with the feeling side, and then that feeling turn into the rage or the red pill moment or whatever label you want to put on it. But what it allows the man to do is it really allows the man to get to a point where to level up. And that's why the environment then is critical, because the environment itself is going to kind of helped shape the men leveling up and going to that next level, because he turned the anger or the hate or the frustration into work.
So in a sense, gentlemen, you guys are saying it's totally necessary for men to go
No,
through this stage.
I will say this: a lot of I think most men will agree, or at least I'm going to say between my generation
Okay.
and even intentional millionaires generation, there was an ideal of a woman that we was taught.
Right.
Women are sugar and spice and everything nice. Women do not, women do not commit domestic violence. Women do not, go out here and cheat. The only people that cheat is men. Um, when we talk about romance, every woman wants the flowers and the candies and the so-called material things. And because you romance her, she's supposed to all of a sudden come up with all this love and this and that. So a lot of men go in believing these things about women, and then you're finding out these things are not true. And then even when, say, a man builds up his economics, well, it took that man 8, 9, 10 years to get to that level. Now that he's at that level, let's say the woman he did like in high school, by the time 10 years later, she's coming with 2, 3 kids. She's coming with a whole lot of economic baggage, a whole lot of issues. And these men are saying, wait a minute, you didn't want me in high school. Now that I done worked my behind off to get to where I'm at, I don't want to accept you anymore. I don't want to deal with that anymore. I don't want to go through having to take care of you, 3 kids, knowing that you didn't care about me. You wasn't there from the beginning. So why should I take you in the end? And so you got a lot of those arguments. And a lot of women don't want to accept those arguments. So what do they call them? Oh, you don't want me? You gay. You don't want me? You something wrong with you. Or when a man is going through those stages, and I call it stages, because I've been through those stages. I've been through the stage where I didn't want to hear anything a woman had to say. Nothing. I've been through the stage of, you know what they call it, pump and dump. But I tell you up front, it's a pump and dump. I've been through that. And when we don't see it, when we don't really understand it, what we're doing, we're trying to throw the Bible at it, or we're just trying to belittle them all over again and say, well, you stupid. Oh, you picked a woman from the streets.
Right.
But when I did my live stream, here it is. You got Intentional Millionaire. He had a red pill moment, but he was dealing with an engineer. She ain't from the streets. She's an engineer.
That is not even a stereotype, huh?
Right. Before the Billions had a red pill moment. But guess what?
I've heard his.
He was on. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
JB had a red pill moment. But what did he say? His woman was she was an engineer. Then she went to software. So we ain't dealing with dumb women typically from the street. So this video that I did was to destroy that narrative.
Right.
You understand? So we
Right.
have to stop saying these things. Right. Chicago Rilla said it best. Emotional intelligence is critical.
Yes.
And a lot of us never develop, or we don't have the teachings of emotional intelligence. So on certain platforms, they're trying to teach that, but it's not a universal education. Then you don't have women that has actually understood what they're looking at. So This is why I say at the very beginning of the video, do you really know what you're looking at when you're looking at it? Do you really know when you're looking at a man who is hurt or is in pain? Do you really know what that looks like?
No. And I think from a woman's perspective on it, just me coming in unbiased and looking at it, to me, it it was more of an understanding. For those that don't know my background, I'm married, been with my husband a while, but the ideal of me coming into the space, it was really a choice, because I wanted understanding and I wanted to learn how to help bridge the gap with our community, and especially men and women that wanted to be married. I wanted to be able to help facilitate that because it's all a conversation. It's really understanding. It's we have to talk. We have to be able to receive each other where we're at, and we have to be able to, at that point, accept each other and then move forward at the level that each individual is, because everybody is not on your level or where Intentional is, or even Wiley or BTB, or it's and that, I believe, is a aspect of critical thinking, because we lead with our emotions with each other so bad that we are not aware that we're humans, and we stage through things. We stage through and we grow in and out. So it just behooves me how everybody expects everybody to be so perfect, It's like,
Well,
did you come from something?
yeah, well,
Can I jump in?
that's why I'm humbly waiting on Shannon Ross is on his way home, and Chicago Rilla said to give him 10 minutes. These two men, if Shannon was to come up for 5-10 minutes, they have a lot more experience
Yeah, I've heard them.
dealing with those communities than I definitely could say me an Intentional Millionaire has. So I think they can articulate themselves, so they can go a little bit more in depth. But what I'm here to do is to say, okay, what can I do to help keep certain communities off of them, not necessarily representing them, but to say, for those that's ready to heal, like I said, the latter end of the video, which I got to remove the music, because I did notice at the latter end, the music outshined what I was saying.
It was a little bit
but
But
it is
can I
a
jump
way
in for a
of
second,
saying,
Uncle Stu?
huh?
I said, can I jump in for a second?
Yes, please.
Yeah, because Miss B Finesse, one of the key things when it comes to the red pill rage, at least from what I'm perceiving, and even I can kind of say for myself, is not really about the situation with the woman itself. It's more about, because a man could get shamed for having the feelings because he genuinely care for a woman. That's the first thing. The next thing is, when he communicates, so he can have his moment, he go through his red pill rage, he go out, he level up, because we told to level up,
right.
he do all those things, and then when he get into the dating marketplace, he got to bring everything to the table, but then she want him to accept her as she is, but she haven't leveled up, she haven't put in no work. And that's where you get a lot of the confusion, because why is it shouldn't be one-sided? It should be a responsibility and a duty for both parties. The man had his role, the woman has her role, the kids have their role, the dog has their role. But it's too many times the role only slides to the man, but then when it comes to some women, not all, then that role goes away, and they want to pick and choose what benefits them, as though the man doesn't matter. And it just got to the point where most men that experience red pill rage, and then they woke, they went through their moment, or they had their red pill moment, when they decide to get back out in the dating market, now they have a level of standard, and then they get shamed for having standards. But like Uncle Stu stated, the women that they was kind of interested in, or still interested in them after they went through their situation, they had some level of emotional maturity, emotional intelligence, but they still looking at the same, everybody around them is making them feel, making them seem like they're wrong now for having a standard, and we just know that that's just unfair. So because it should be good for both parties. No party should be more than another.
Let me when Intentional Millionaire finish, let me let Candid Ann have her say, and then we'll flip it back to you.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to speak out of both sides of my mouth here just for a moment, if you
Okay,
guys
hold
can.
on one quick moment,
Sure. Yes,
candidate.
sir.
Samuel McFarlane, welcome, sir. Welcome, salute. Go ahead, candidate.
Okay, yeah. So I'm going to speak out of both sides of my mouth here just for a moment, if you
Okay.
can just bear with me. So I saw the previous video that you did, and I related to it a lot because my ex-boyfriend, my only boyfriend that I ever had before my husband, he went through the same exact situation, and I was with him when he received a letter from a woman that it was a year. It was only a year, and when she was spending time bringing this child to his mom's house and spending money and things like that, when she wrote this letter, he was so broken. I saw how broken he was. He could barely speak. The tears were flowing down his face. And I remember that moment so clearly, how broken he was. Like I got to see it firsthand, him being lied to, and just how heartbroken he was when he thought that this was his child and found out that it wasn't. So, and her only purpose was because she wanted to get back with him. She was hoping to lure him away from me and using the child as bait. And I mean, it didn't work because, but I saw how broken and how manipulative women can be and at what ends they would go through just to get an ex-boyfriend back. So I'm going to put that on the table and tell you that I understand because I've seen it firsthand. I understand that completely. However, I'm going to go to the other side of my mouth here.
Okay.
And I'm going to talk about red pill rage for women, right? I'm a Caribbean lady. Well, I'm born here in New York in America in the Bronx, but my family's from Barbados. And I have to tell you, I'm not going to take up your stream too long, but
No, no, no. Continue to talk. Talk,
oh,
please do.
okay. There's been a lot of instances in traditional Caribbean families in which men and treated women very poorly.
Mhm.
Abuse, manipulation, multiple children. I specifically remember. I don't even going to get into this. But there's a whole lot that goes on and that women have dealt with at the
Right.
hands of women, and it seems like for the men, what your recommendation was in the red pill was to level up, get your money, get the bag. But can I just tell you that women who have gone through this have taught their children to do the same, to level
Mhm.
up, get an education, don't go through what I went through. And though I'm not saying it's right, I think it somehow created this fight. And I would like us to just get a little bit of understanding on where we both come from. Women have gone through these things, and unfortunately, we've gone and he talked about Mr. Intentional Millionaire talked about how men have been shamed. So have women. We're being called masculine for leveling up and getting that education so that we don't have to be beaten and abused. Excuse me, abused and all this kind of different stuff. And so I'm not saying that that's the correct answer. I'm just talking about what has actually happened historically, and I can give you stories on stories on stories about things that I've seen, things that in my own family and family members that I know in the Caribbean and Barbados. But I'm just throwing it out there to say that we need grace, we need some understanding on both sides. I've seen it on my ex-boyfriend, the horrible abuse that he's received in terms of how his child was used or what he thought was his child used against him, and I've also seen it with women. So at some point I hope that we can get together and understand that we're both hurt and that we need some healing on both sides, that we, at some point we can come together. And I'm a married woman, so I'm cool, but so this doesn't really totally affect me, but it affects my community. And I want to see more Black women being married because I'm hearing about how Black women are being married and how Black men are like, oh, go outside the country and all this other stuff. And I find love wherever you can find love. I don't care about that, but I'm just asking for a little bit of understanding on both sides of the party because we've both been hurt. Like while you were going through your red pill rage, you left damage. You said, I've seen your videos. You said you left damage. Now, where do those damaged women go? What do they do? Right.
Well,
So
yeah,
yeah,
let me
just a little understanding. So that's my
sure.
comment. Thank you so much
No,
for
no,
having
no.
me.
You are fine. So, like I said, I like to give intellectual understanding and communication because in certain circles, they would have tore you up, and I know they would have. So let me tell you where, let's say, the pushback would come from. That way you have the understanding of why some people do or say the things they do.
Yes, sir. I'm
Um,
I'm open ears and I'm listening.
For a lot of men, and I've seen this for myself in the 90s, you have systems that are designed to help women mentally, emotionally, and financially. You do not have those same systems for men. I'm telling you from personal experience, when I was going through domestic violence, raising a child, there was no help for me. If a woman, if my ex-wife, if I would have hit my ex-wife, I would be in prison. My ex-wife would have the court system. She would have psychiatric help. She would even be able to take the kids and go anywhere in the United States she want to. I didn't have that. So there was no system for me, but there are systems for women. The second pushback that you will get is, well, I do know, yes, women have been abused. Nobody's going to deny that. But the problem comes in when we have made it the main narrative without any balance or equality. And we've made that the main narrative. Therefore, a lot of these women are upset at a lot of these men are upset at that particular narrative. I'm also going to say, have you ever heard, Candidan, this argument that says, if I tell you I cut my finger, somebody come right behind you and say, well, I cut my hand, to make it appear that your finger cut is
Wow.
nothing?
I
That's what
understand.
these men feel when they're just telling you their story. And then a woman comes right behind them and say, well, I was abused 3 times worse, as if what he went through is nothing. I've been on 2 different platforms and I told my story. Told on Miss B Finesse, and I told it on Blind Guy, His Wife, Their Life. And just you didn't do this, but just to show you exactly what happened, I'm telling my story and I'm explaining my story, what I went through, the help I couldn't receive. A woman came in the chat and tried to say she was a victim of domestic violence. At that time, Ms. B Finesse on her show, as well as Blind Guy, His Wife on their show, said, we get it, but we're listening to a man who's a victim. Do you know that on 2 different platforms, 2 different women got pissed off because they couldn't get their narrative out? Meanwhile, most women don't even know the story of a man who's a victim of domestic violence. So it meant belittle what I had to say, forget what I had to say. What I went through was nothing compared to. So I'm a little bit more, as they would say, emotionally intelligent. Take a man that doesn't have that. How does that make him feel?
Right.
And I'm going to say right here, right now, men do have feelings.
So true.
And
Absolutely.
so, just like you just said, you said, hey, I watched my boyfriend go through A, B, C, and D. Candidan, how many women is willing to tell what you just said? That, that the first part of healing is acknowledgement. That's all these. I'm going to say, I don't want to put a name on it or a number, because I don't run around with all these data and statistics. I don't. But here's my reality. How many times do a man finally get to hear a woman say, I believe you, without questioning the other side? Just, I believe you. You know how women began to actually really hear the story? When they watch Uncle Stew and they see, well, Uncle Stew was always laughing. Uncle Stew was always happy. Then when they begin to hear my real story, is the only time they'll actually listen.
Well, I thank you for sharing your story. That it's powerful, and I don't have a whole lot to say outside of I'm sorry that happened to you, and even though I cannot exactly relate to it, I did have a very close hand in seeing the damage that occurs, and so I don't know. It's just at some point I somehow want us to find a common ground.
I
Yeah.
believe that we are getting there as much as people may think we're not. I totally believe that we are getting there. I believe that there's enough men who knows those experiences coming out, and and I believe that my platform, along with some others, um, are going through what I call healing up. I don't call it leveling up because a lot of men got the money, they just don't have the healing. So, and really, the healing is not, oh, you damaged so much. It is, what is the process?
Right.
So everybody's, like I said, everybody's on a different level. Some, as we just learned, some are midtown. They ain't gonna have what they say. Is it midtown that
It's me,
they said we'll never have uh
men
uh,
going their own way.
yeah, men going their own way. You're gonna have that, you know. So there's different levels to this thing, So that's why I say, I just want to shout this out. Pastor Troy, your book came in, sir. Told you, I'm a man of my word.
So that's all that I want to like offer.
Sure.
I don't want to take anything away from your messaging, and to know that this conversation really is meant for men. I just somehow I just wanted to empathize and also offer just a little bit of, I don't know, some kind of common ground. I was just hoping for a reach.
I think,
But
no,
that's
Right.
about
well,
all.
let me say,
Candy Ann,
Yes, sir.
yes, just to add to what Uncle Stu was stating, the key is, because my question, I have one question for you, and then I'm gonna just kind of give just a tidbit. When you saw the young, did you say it was your ex-boyfriend, or he was your boyfriend, and
My
you saw him read the,
ex-boyfriend.
yeah, you saw him read the letter.
Whew,
See,
yeah.
my question to you, when you saw that, did you lose any respect for him, or did you gain respect for him?
I was just brokenhearted. I lost so much respect for her. And my response, my honest to God response was, if ever I have a child and somebody asks me for a DNA test, I don't care if I'm married. I don't care, even though I'm serial monogamous. I'll always, always, always give it without question, because I saw how manipulative. I didn't know that could even I mean, I was just young. I was 21, 22 years old, and it just opened my mind to how horrible the situation could be. But no, I didn't lose any respect for him. I was brokenhearted. I was brokenhearted. That
See,
damaged him. It damaged
right.
him. It wasn't
See,
like he was able to get over it easily. It took time.
hmm See, but you're a exception to the rule, because most men will get judged the opposite direction, because he showed a sense of he had feelings too.
I
Do
mean,
you
that
kind of
makes no
see what?
sense to me, because people are human like that. He thought that was his
Right.
son.
But but it goes back to what I was saying, as men, because men are not expected to show emotion. Men are not expected to cry in front of a woman. So because of that, that's the other side of that men have to think about and consider, that you as a woman may not necessarily have been aware of at that time.
I see.
You
Thank
kind of
you.
see what I'm saying? Because
Yes,
it
I
makes,
do.
because of, if see, because it seems to me you got good foundation, so you understand, because you would appreciate that, because you know that he has a side like you, he can be like you, but y'all could get in sync together. But most women will look at that as him being weak.
I see. I'm getting clarification. Thank you. I understand
Uh-huh.
what you're talking about. That's why I wanted to hear from you guys. So thank you.
And then
and
it and
go
then
ahead. I'm
I
sorry.
just
Go
say
ahead.
this, and then the tidbit I wanted to kind of give, the thing about, you ask kind of how does that benefit? Well, the other side of that, Miss B Finesse asked, do you think red pill moment, or red pill rage, or whatever the case may be, is necessary? I don't think it's necessary, but the other side of that is, the right man with the right guidance and right environment, he can turn that into a positive, and it put him in a better position to provide to the community.
I agree. I totally agree. And
So,
I don't fight you there. I totally agree. But
mhm.
I was just mentioning the talking about the, the other side of my mouth here, just to say that, like, women who have gone through whatever they've gone through, part of our maybe wrongful reasoning is to also level up and get that education, and it's not served us either. So that's where I was talking about, where we both made mistakes because of hurt and because of pain and because of manipulation in the past. But I agree with you. I'm right there. I totally agree.
so,
And
so,
to
so, but what I was going to add to that though is, but in that sense though, the man is doing really what he's called to do, because that's his level. That's him getting to the level where he can genuinely lead, when you think about his biblical stance.
All right, so hold on. I'm gonna sign out at this point, only because at one point on the back end, Uncle Stu, I'm gonna talk to you about why I love God, but I don't like church people. Okay, because
oh,
when you
don't
get to,
worry.
we'll talk about
If
that on
you say
another.
that,
Yeah,
trust me,
we'll
we
talk
can
about
we
that.
can not only talk about that. I can have a whole platform, and
Okay,
I got two pastors in the chat right now
yeah,
that
because
will be ready for that kind of conversation and be ready to hear that kind of
so
conversation.
I'm gonna back on out of here, because when we start talking about the Bible and stuff like that, I feel oftentimes that the Bible is used as a weapon for manipulation in order to control people, and is not usually utilized in order for self-edification and for growth. It's used to, that's my opinion. We'll talk about that some other time, but I don't want to get into that at this point. But I do respect everyone's opinion. So I'm gonna back up and continue listening. This is a great show. Thank you guys.
You welcome,
All
Pastor
right.
Troy and Sir Hale Speaks. That's a little back pocket conversation for y'all. So we got to put that in the back pocket, because she's not the only one that has those sentiments, and maybe we need to confront that and deal with that head on.
Yeah, we should do a panel on. You should do a panel on it, Uncle Stu.
Yeah, that's
You bring up yourself
I
and all your.
yeah. Go ahead.
You bring up yourself, and you kind of Pastor Troy and some of the Bolo TV, and y'all kind of discuss it.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan. Um, sounds like the 13th for the both of them. I also want any woman in the chat to recognize that, yes, my platform is to empower men, but I also want the platform to have the openness that women can come on this panel and have an intellectual conversation. I don't want them to feel that they're going to be attacked or beat up. We're going to have an intellectual conversation with some understanding. This goes to what Vaughn is asking. He says, what are the steps in finding a common ground? You're watching it right now, sir. It is having the open dialogue with a man that has a little bit more introspection and experience into these things. You're seeing it right here being performed, because you're seeing the work of healing up. So you're seeing the work. You're also seeing men who have gone through this work, and what they look like now. So we also have to recognize when we're seeing the work live and in living color. You say, how can we as men and women come together in order for some types of resolve to take place? You see it right here. Candid Ann came up and was open about her thoughts, her views, her opinions. She was not beat up. She was not attacked, and also recognized she will be on this platform one-on-one with Uncle Stew this week. So I believe it's up on my Instagram, and you'll see the date for that. So Candid Ann will definitely be back this week. So be looking out for that. I'm quite sure she's going to have a bunch of things she's going to want to talk about and things that she's going to want to discuss. And to me, you see, oh, that's called intimacy. I told you this black man up here is a little deep. I know what intimacy, into me and see. So I got you. Yes. You are more than welcome to come up if you got questions. If you just got a thought, come on up. Don't be afraid. Trying to wait on two other men that I believe can give a deeper light, but they're on two different time zones and they're doing some things. So if I can't get them now, I'm quite sure I will get them again later on. But like I said, if you didn't see the video and you just want to talk, come on up, talk. If you got questions, come on up and talk to me. Let's talk. I'm not the brother that's going to cuss you out, beat you up, and call you all kinds of names. Pastor Troy, Lucia Journey, if y'all want to come up and talk, even if you just want to say thank you, of the work that's trying to get done, come talk to me. Vaughn, I'm surprised you quiet in my chat tonight. Normally, Vaughn be ready to come up here and really go in. But I love him because he's trying and he is listening and he is learning and he has his own story. He had his own narrative. Salute to him.
Unc, I got another question before I head on out.
Wally, the topic is based on the video that I already did. So we're still dealing with red pill rage to healing.
Can you hear me, Unc?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I said I got one more question and then I got to head on out.
Okay.
My question to you is, as far as the red pill rage, do you think it hits men harder as they get, I guess you could say, if they get the rage older in like their 30s plus, or is it just as heavy when they feel it like in their 20s?
I won't put an age on it because I'll never say that my pain is worse than another man's pain, regardless of age.
Well, no, I'm not asking that. I'm asking it in reference to, like, as far as your life experience is kind of what I was trying to get to with the question. Do you think the rage will come more so as you get older in life because you have understanding, or do you think it could come at any point in your life because this is just kind of the walk that you're taking?
I will say
Hey, Vaughn.
any point, but I think it would hurt an older person more than it will hurt a younger person because it'll take that older person more time to get themselves together versus someone who was younger that has time to do that.
Okay. All right, Unc. So thank you for answering
Hold
that.
on. Ellie, and right now my team is putting that conversation together tentatively December 13th. So yes, we are going to go in this platform. Now, let me say it this way so that you understand. I don't have a problem with certain hardcore conversations. Other conversations I don't have. But that conversation I can have. I too must represent ministry. I too seen a whole lot of things going on with the church. I too understand when someone says, I love Jesus, but I can't stand church. And I think us who say we are leadership in church has just as much right to listen, understand, and find other ways to still minister the word without necessarily bringing you inside of a building. So yes, please be that post will go up as soon as I can confirm 2 more pastors dates. We will have that open panel discussion and we're not going to be afraid to have it.
Okay, Uncle. With that being said, I'm gonna go back and help out in the chat. Thank you for having me up as always.
You're
Thank you for the
welcome.
safe place.
All right.
Wait, what was that question, Area?
And bye.
Well,
What?
Wait a minute. What
What was
happened?
your last question, Area? Before you go, what was that last question?
Oh, okay. Yeah, we got him up here. So my question was, Wally,
Okay.
this is funny because this is coming from the stream earlier. But my question was, as far as levels to the red pill rage, I was asking Unc or any of the men on the panel, do they assume or think that this rage is stronger as they get older and then kind of you hit that wall and say, dang it, that's what it is? Or could it happen as early as somebody in their 20s? And I'm pretty sure I know the answer. So
Well,
I'm a
Okay.
okay.
I'm gonna say
well, okay,
this.
wait. But based on your dynamic, is it on
Okay.
age though?
Uh,
No, the reason I'm gonna say let's hold that question. Let me pass
excuse
that question to someone who has more experience
me. Mm.
working with people in that community.
Okay, wait. What do you mean by more experience?
Wally, because I think he's in his 20s. That's probably why Wally wanted to say something.
Yeah.
No, because the reason why I asked, because when you said age, this is why I was gonna be like, because the age part really doesn't matter. I think for me, based on your question, it really matters about the situation that got them there. That's why I wanted to know exactly how you were wording your question.
Yeah, so I was focusing on, is it more intense when you're younger or older? So and Uncle's like it could be either or. So he said
It
as
can
far
be
as his
both.
experience. Yeah. So
I
that's what I
believe
was
that
wondering
it can
because
be both.
I'm not a man, so I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's why I was asking.
It
Yeah,
But
can be
I
I'm gonna
mean,
let you
yeah.
listen. I'm gonna let you guys hammer this one out. I need to drop. But I'll let you guys go ahead and facilitate it. Shout out to Uncle Stu, Vaughn, Intentional, and you too, Wiley.
All
I
right.
appreciate all you men on this platform,
Love you, my
and thank
sister.
you guys so much for allowing me to participate.
So
Salute to you too, Wiley. Adios.
All right. So, Mr. Vaughn, what do you have to contribute to this conversation, or what's your thoughts, views? Because I don't think you was able to see the video, was you?
Yeah, I missed the video, but I do
Okay.
understand the concept of which you're speaking about. The red pill rage, and like I stated before on another panel, I had no idea what they were referring to when they said red pill rage. Because my age stems back some decades,
Mhm.
and we didn't refer to it as red pill rage.
What
But when
was
it
it
was
called?
You know what? I don't believe that it didn't have a name for it. I don't
Okay.
recall any type of specific name, but it's just a time in your life where you become aware of some of the indifferences that can take place between your the opposite sex, your female counterpart, you know. And so we didn't really refer to it as red pill rage. It's just it was an awareness that you came into. Now, based upon what type of women you dated or you were with, may determine the intensity of this quote unquote rage that they're talking about.
Mhm.
The word rage, when I hear the word rage, automatically it makes me think of a person who is thoroughly and totally out of control because that's a rage. So when you say red pill rage, I'm like, wow, what is that? Are you tearing up shit? Are you running around here just, like what are we doing?
Mhm.
But I do
Mhm.
understand there is a time when you are fed up with some of the treatments that you may have received from some of the women that you were with, you know. And I don't know if any of you heard my story, but I can remember having a definite red pill rage experiences in my 20s, you know. And I was always taught not to be physical with a woman, not to put my hands on a woman. I was always taught how to treat a lady, how to respect a woman. And this is how I was raised. But I can remember there was one incident where I literally acted, and I didn't do it, but I felt bad with myself because I had such a desire to punch this female in her face. And it wasn't because it was basically because of an argument. But I had become so rageful on the inside when I figured out that she was just taking advantage of me. When I had good intentions and I felt that I was being taken advantage of, or not appreciated the way that I felt that I should have been. And I was very quite young, you know. But at that moment, And because I had the background of Christianity, I grew up in the church and you know, brought up with biblical foundational truths and all of that kind of stuff. But but at the same time, we're all human and we all go through these things. Miss B Finesse was saying something about, is it different from when you're a younger person or an older person? Each person has their different way of dealing with it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes,
Now,
sir.
what I did learn from it was how to control my temperament. Because a man should always be in control of his temper and his temperament. A man should always, this is just my opinion, but he should learn how to master that. And some of us blow off the handle just by little simple, little tiny things because we never learned how to master our temperament, you know. And so that particular situation helped me to learn that as I grew in life, you know. So I don't know, like the red pill rage thing. I believe what they're saying is that this is a time in your life where you come to some type of awareness of how
Mhm.
a woman can beguile you or take advantage of you or you know try to get over on you. And so my question is, well, when you feel that, how do you deal with that? I think that
Well,
answer right there should be put out for some of the younger people
well,
or for some of the people who are not familiar with this terminology.
well, here's where I would say that's the answer they're looking from men like yourself, from men
Exactly.
like myself, even
Okay.
from men like Intentional Millionaire. I there was something you said, and because you are older, you're the oldest one on this panel. You said coming into an awareness, and I think your voices now needs to be heard. It didn't have a name. That's very important. It didn't have a name. You couldn't identify it.
Yeah.
The term red pill didn't come out into the Matrix. So neither one of us was watching the Matrix. So the Matrix didn't even come out. But let's
Exactly.
let's go there because that's important that people understand, or at least my sisters understand that this is not new.
It's not
This
new.
new vocabulary. We saying red pill, red, but
Yeah.
this
Nothing new.
experience
It's
is
an
not
experience.
new.
Yes.
So when
And
what was it for you, Mr. Vaughn? What you talked about the woman. What did you learn about woman and then found out that was a lie? What was
uh,
what was your realism and your reality moment? What did
yeah.
it look
It,
like?
what it looked like for me is during the time when this all came to a head for me. Uh, I was young, and when I was brought up in the Church of God in Christ.
Right.
So, we're taught, hey, serve the Lord and be a good person and find you a good wife,
Mm-hmm.
get married and be fruitful and multiply.
Right.
And, all of those good old principles like that. And I don't have a problem with that even now to this day, but I feel where we were lacking back in the days when I was coming up is good information. They weren't giving us good solid information. They were giving us church, but they weren't giving us good reality information. And not that church is not reality, but you know what I'm saying. You know, I felt like they were lacking as far as the young men when we were coming up. I felt
Right.
that we could have been guided a little bit better. Everything is not churchy. Even the Bible says first natural and then spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
We are both natural and spiritual beings. So we just can't be spiritual all the time and just deal with spiritual things. No, we need to deal with natural things. And when we deal with natural things, Uncle Stu, that means we have to deal with our flesh,
Mm-hmm.
our appetites, our cravings. We
Mm-hmm.
have to deal with those type of things.
Mm-hmm.
So being young and a little ignorant to a lot of things, you know, and after many engagements, you know,
Mhm.
I look back at myself and I think that it's quite funny because it's like, why did I have so many engagements, you know?
Right.
But at the same time, all of them they came to an end, you know. And I was like, is it me or is it them? Is it me or is it them? You know. But when I had this one young lady really show me her personality, and it wasn't the church personality. You
Gotcha.
see, yeah, it wasn't the church personality, you know. And you know, all I knew of her is singing and speaking in tongues and having good church, you know. But when the real hurt came out, it shocked me, and it kind of provoked me for the old me to come out because see, there was an old man there, you
Right.
know, even
Right.
in my youth. And
Right.
so thank God for the foundational teachings that I had because I didn't resort to violence. And so when we talk about this red pill rage thing, the word rage alone, I already related to violent, some type of violence,
Mhm.
you know. And so how are we acting out this rage? This is a good question that I have because I want to know what the new age people are talking about. How are we acting out this rage? Well, a lot of us are using this as an excuse because we haven't dealt with our own insufficiencies and our own self. So we'll say that it's a red pill rage. That's why I popped her in the mouth. That's why I hit her in the lip a little bit. That's why I grabbed her and drug her by her hair. See what I'm saying? Because I came to some
What
type of
about the opposite, Vaughn? Because we just
no, no,
there's a
no. Yeah, there is always Uncle Stu.
yeah,
There is always an opposite. There is it's on both ends. Do you know what I'm saying?
I
And
do.
and we would be and all of us would be remiss if we did not recognize that this situation happens on both ends of the spectrum,
Let me ask you
both
something, Mr.
male
Vaughn,
and
because
female.
I'm gonna ask Sir Hale speaks if he got maybe 2 3 minutes to come on the platform. Here's been my biggest argument, and this is where I give sympathy to the men and try to give understanding to the women. Do we
Hmm.
really have spaces in order to heal when we can't
That's a good
even?
question.
And I'm talking about above YouTube. Let's pretend there was no YouTube. Can we go to church and really heal? Can we
You
really?
know,
Can we? And again,
wow, yeah,
I think
that part,
that's
yeah,
where and I'm not blaming you because this is not a blame game. I think
okay.
that's where rubber meets the road. That's where I try to show compassion to women to say these men don't have a place to go.
I get
In
it.
the
Yep, I
90s, they
understand.
got pushed out of the church.
Yeah,
Let me give Pastor Troy uh, a breather. Go ahead, Pastor Troy. What talk to me?
Oh yeah. I've been in ministry for over 20 years. Came from a traditional type of background. Uh, dealing with church and everything like that. And myself, was hurt, by some of the things that, some people that say that they are of Christ or say that they are saved and everything like that has done. But just, you know, a lot of times when because my mission and my type of teaching um is to edify and like the lady was saying, how the Bible's supposed to be used, how it's supposed to be utilized to edify, and also to glorify God, um and to teach, where people can live uh this this where they can better their lives, by the word. So I mean, you have in the church world, everybody's not a part of the church, just because everybody's not real, in the church. And that's just like with a lot of communities and movements. You have a lot of people that's not real, a lot of people that are misrepresenting the faith and everything. So you can't really judge by one particular, uh, experience or other experiences as well. Sadly to say, there's a lot of bad apples that spoil the bunch,
Mhm.
and that's where I come from. But myself, yes, I have seen different things that have happened in the church. But you can't, that, like I said, that goes with a lot of different communities and
Mhm.
movements. There are so
Mhm.
many of them, communities and movements. In the Black community, in our community, we have some bad apples. In the
Mhm.
manosphere, we have some bad apples. We have some bad apples in every movement, every community, every ethnicity. But do you throw out the baby with the bathwater? No.
Right.
You know, um, and then when we talk about the Bible, it's how the Bible, like the lady was saying, how the Bible is utilized. Every pastor don't utilize the Bible like that,
Right.
for us when it comes down to trying to manipulate or trying to do trying to manipulate or trying to sway someone to follow them other than following Christ. So
Mhm.
it's a lot of
Mhm.
things with that. So you can't really judge one uh these bad apples.
Let me ask you this as opposed to making a statement. Being that you went that direction, um, part of this panel discussion that I'm going to deal with the church. I'm going to be the first, although I want everybody want to say they never did it, but I feel that it's on right for me, um, as a man to God, as a man who has a theology degree, as a man who studies to show himself approved, um, is to say I will be the first to repent for the building of the church. And when I say building, because a lot of people have been hurt inside the building, um, regardless of my walk in life, to really say, okay, we're going to be willing to listen to the people's hurts. We're going to be willing to listen to their pains. We're going to be willing without justifying why a leader or a church organization or ministry did whatever they did. Um, and at the same time, be able to give them that freedom to say, okay, let's not go to the building. Let's really just
Be able
let
to
them
give
hear the word of God without, you know what I'm saying, without re-hurting the hurt. You know what I mean? Because each one of us may not have done it and we may not be blamed for it, but we also got to recognize there's a lot of people who's been hurt by it. And I don't know if I put it like this: since I've been on YouTube, I don't know if anybody has just come together as just a bunch of ministers, pastors, evangelists, and just said, okay, here's the panel. We're going to acknowledge that there's people who's been hurt by the church or by leadership or by clicks and clangs that happens throughout, and be able to try to heal at least on that part.
Yeah, I think that we have all been those of us who have been in church and frequent church and grew up in the church. You know, there's definitely some pros and cons going on there. You know, I to this present day, I do have somewhat of a resentment, for some of the things that I've experienced in church, with some of the people in church.
Go see my
You,
last
you
video.
know,
I just did a video about
okay,
resentment.
okay, but you know what? I've come to terms with that. I've come to terms with that actually. So let me put a correction on that. But yeah, I can understand how a person can definitely say that because there are some there are some false truths going on and some false teachings going on. And a lot of times when we get caught up in this traditionalism type of lifestyle of being traditional lies, I believe that Christ transcends all of the traditionalisms. He didn't come in a Mercedes Benz. He came on riding on a donkey, so he didn't have to be like an elite type of person. But a lot of times we get caught up in all these isms and schisms and doctrines, so many different doctrines. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
You
sir.
really have to, this relationship that you have with God, it really has to be personal. It has to be personal. Because if you rely on this person and that person and this person and that person to try to dictate to you who God is and what he's all about, God knows how to reveal himself to each and every person. And I can understand when the sister was on earlier and she said, well, you know what? I love God, but I don't like the church people. Well, guess what? I feel like I feel those same type of shoes. I don't like some of the people, but I do love.
Mm-hmm.
And love doesn't always mean that you like, but we do have to love. So, yeah, this conversation, I think it's going to be a very good conversation, when you have the panel concerning that. But back to the red pill
Yeah,
issue.
let's go back to the red. Yeah, let's go back
Yeah,
to the
because
topic at
I
hand.
definitely I don't want to get off topic about that because I do have some feelings about that. I have some feelings about it.
My suggestion, Mr. Vaughn, my
Yes, sir.
suggestion would be look at the video I did. I think that's
Yeah, I
because
will. I will go back and look at the
that's
replay.
definitely where the talk back conversation is. And the
Hmm.
reason I say go back to the video, because the video says more than you could ever have gotten out of that particular community. And I believe,
Okay. Okay.
based on somebody who was in my chat, I'm probably going to have a back channel conversation with him so that he can be a part of the communication, because he has more, if you want to call it, in-depth historical
Hmm.
and actually hands-on
Hmm.
with this community, as well as speaking to to even some of the things we may not even be able to speak to. Hold on one second. Abel Rains, I believe he was having some technical difficulties, and that's why he dropped off. So I
Well,
don't think he just dropped off to be dropping off. I think he was having
mhm.
some technical difficulties where he's at.
Well, here's my question, Uncle Stu.
Sure.
When it comes to this red pill thing, and all these pills. Number one, please, 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 this is something that was derived from a Hollywood movie, blue and red and green and all these different pills. It's kind of like the astrology. You're Capricorn, so this is how you act, and you're Aries, so this is how. I don't really subscribe to it, but I do understand where they're coming from with the definition. I do understand where they're coming from with the definition. But my point is the rage part. So my question is, how is this rage acted out? Because I haven't heard anybody really say that yet.
It's acted out in multiples of ways.
Okay, yeah. What are some of the
In,
examples? I'm
yeah,
just curious.
in my video, I describe
Okay,
what
okay.
resentments look like and how it affects you. You
Hmm.
got some people who's acting out by drinking alcohol. You got some
Okay.
smoking weed. You got some who are now smoking or snorting or shooting drugs. You got
Uh,
some that are acting out in overindulgence of sex. You got some that's doing it through food. There is called addictive
mm,
personalities. So there's many ways that this rage
is
is acting
expressed.
out.
Okay,
So
okay.
this is why I say to people, do you really know what you're looking at or hearing when you see it? Do you okay?
Wow.
Since we're gonna go with the Bible, do you remember the story when Hannah came into the temple of Eli?
Okay, I'm
Do
listening.
you
Go
remember
ahead.
what Eli told Hannah? Eli looked at Hannah and said, "Woman, why have you come into the temple drunk?"
Mm,
Now, remind you, Eli was going blind, lights going out. In other words, the way she looked drunk. Now, some of my Pentecostal brothers going to say she had the Holy Ghost, but
well,
in that instance, according to Eli, she looked drunk. But what did she reply? She says, "I haven't drank anything." And she told her story and what happened. Only thing Eli could say at that point was, "God will bless you for what you said." But he misidentified Hannah. Here's another phase. Go to the New Testament. After the day of Pentecost, what was the first thing Peter said to the people who witnessed what was going on? He said, "These people are not drunk."
drunk as ye suppose.
Exactly. So, in
Mm,
other words, we can easily see things and misinterpret what we see. Chicago
mm.
Really, you need me to drop the link, sir? I'm gonna drop the link for you.
Bolo's on
So
the
I'm only
scene.
saying that not to justify actions. What I'm saying is, do you really know what you see when you see it? Because everybody don't know. I've been through it. And I
Yeah,
acted like
yeah.
some of the people you see around you. And I didn't have a woman for the streets. I didn't
Mm,
have a dumb woman. I didn't have the image of a woman that everybody keeps identifying. That was the purpose of my
mm,
story. You understand?
mhm,
Because see, it's easy to say, "Oh, we had a woman for the streets." Now, what about the men like Intentional Millionaire who had an engineer, or like me who had a college graduate, or like JB who had an engineer, or like Before the Beans? What do you say to them? And then if you say that about
or like me,
right,
who
so
had
we have to
a
know
church
what we're
abiding
looking
citizen.
at. Like you asked me, you said, "Uncle Stu, what does the rage look like?" It's self-destructive,
Yeah, I know
yes,
what it looks like for
but we
me,
have
but
to know what it is when we're looking at it, so we don't misidentify it. You understand what I'm
mm,
saying? You also have to recognize, if we don't, it's so small, so small. Why is this such a focal point? Sorry, it's bigger than what you think, sir. So I can't totally agree with
yeah,
you, because Red Pill Community is not just on YouTube. It's also
yeah.
long outside of YouTube, and it's long historically been around long before YouTube even existed. I'm willing to have
Mm,
that conversation if you're willing to cam up. Um, but so Mr. Vaughn,
yes,
basically,
sir.
what like, I understand you saying, "Hey, all these pills," but remember, it's only ways of trying to identify something you can't
Yeah, I
really
get it.
articulate.
I get that.
Yeah.
And
Now,
I get that part. I
and now
truly,
what we
truly I
have to
do.
do is now that we got the communication out there, right? We recognize in ourselves. All we now have to do is sit
Uh-oh.
there, and for me as a content creator, is develop the information for people who may be going through that process and be able to come, "Oh, my bad." See, you be switching so many different. You need to stop switching icons on me. I got you. I got you. I got you. Um, so that's where it's coming from. Now, like I said, I've only dealt with this situation because I've broken it down.
Yeah.
And now by next week, I'm not going to be talking about the red pill. I'm talking on a whole
Yeah.
different subject. Believe it
Yeah,
or
and
not,
that's good
my
because
subject next Saturday is going to be on anger.
mm,
And what does that Bible scripture say? Be angry, but sin not. Don't let your
that's
wrath
right.
go down before nightfall.
Exactly.
So now, that's a principle that needs to be taught. What do you mean be angry and yet don't harm nobody in your anger? So we have to teach. You understand what I'm saying? Like you said, well, I got through this, but now if there's no one to teach anybody how to get through this, then what? You
Well,
understand
yeah,
what I'm
we need
saying?
to,
This is
you know,
where we as
as young
older
people,
people,
we need to be taught as young people, as young men. We need to be taught. Now, me per se, I grew up without a father, so I didn't have that type of mentoring and that type of leadership and guidance as I grew up. So I had to kind of learn as I went along, you know. And so
right?
some of these issues that I found myself in could have possibly been avoided if I just had some good fatherly mentorship or
Right.
advice.
But but
But but
but
but
but
that
Mr.
doesn't that
Vaughn,
does but that doesn't wait a minute, that doesn't take away from the fact I don't use that as an excuse to fail. You
okay,
see
but
what I'm
Mr.
saying?
Vaughn, what what
Yeah,
what
I
what what I'm saying is there's certain languages. This is why I say it's very, very imperative to see my video. You'll never be able to get what I'm saying in the talk back unless you see the
right.
video. The reason I'm saying you have to see the video
Okay, okay.
because then you get to understand a separate language. I don't tell men to level up. I say it's time to heal up. And what is the healing? The healing is simply getting past what they're in because a lot of them are already in good economic situations.
Hmm.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
So if you tell a man that is already a millionaire, well, you need to level up. Level up for what? He already did that. What we have to do is again understand what you're looking at. And if you don't know what you're looking at, we all need to be quiet because we can misidentify something
Right.
that isn't there. So,
But
like
leveling
I said,
leveling up
if
leveling
you
up
if
is
you
not
if
just
you
based
sit there and
on
go,
financial
well,
gain, is it?
huh?
I, I said leveling. You had just mentioned that. You said, well, this person is a millionaire, so they already leveled up. I think leveling up goes way beyond like financial status. You know,
I think
there's a lot of
okay.
different
Well, I
areas,
really
and
need
just
you to
in my
look at
just
right
just in my opinion.
before you go
What?
any deeper. I
No,
challenge you to
I'm
look
not
at
even
my
going to go
video.
deep into that. I
Yeah,
was just
I
making a
challenge you to
statement.
look at my video because it's
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
give some backdrop and some clarity and some language. You understand? That's why I just did it as a 1 day cycle, but it's going to give some backdrop, some personal testimony, and
Okay.
some proper context to that conversation. You understand? And I think that unless you understand that, we're going to go around in a cycle. You understand? I'm not going to continue to tell men that I already know is up to level up. That's in a nice way. That's asinine. But what I am saying is, do you know what you're looking at when you're looking at? Do you know men that are doing what? Setting boundaries. Why are we mad that these men are setting boundaries?
Yeah, we
Why
we,
are
we
we
should.
mad that they are willing to put a standard in their life? Why are we upset with that?
And when you
I
say
don't
we,
have to agree
who
with
now when you
everything,
say
but if
we,
they are
okay,
placing standards in their life,
right. And when you say
okay?
we, Uncle Stu, who are you referring to when you say we? I just want to be clear, and I'm
Oh,
not trying to
sure.
be
When
contentious
I
or
say
anything.
we,
I'm just
I'm
trying to
talking
gain an
about
understanding.
when I put myself in the we who may attack them, we who may call them crazy, we who may call them, all these titles and
Mhm.
labels. But we need to stop doing that, because what I see are men who have placed standards in their life, and we're now upset because they have put standards in their life. They have did what's known in therapy, healthy boundaries. And because they've placed healthy boundaries around them, now we attack them for the healthy boundary, but we never attack a woman for her healthy boundaries. Healthy boundaries has been taught all throughout the 90s. Set boundaries. This is called a healthy boundary. This is how we set a healthy boundary. Now these men are setting healthy boundaries, and we're telling them, don't have the boundary. Don't have that kind of standard. You need to blame yourself for everything you do. Don't have that standard. And then we beat them up for having a standard. And I am saying, hey, do you recognize when someone is trying to play? Because I'm speaking for me. I have a standard and I have healthy boundaries. Before I even thought about a relationship, I put healthy boundaries. There were certain women I was not going to date, have none of that stuff. And you couldn't convince me to date or deal with certain types of women, period. And they didn't all have to be in the Pookie and Ray Ray. I was not, at the age of 50, going to take on a woman with kids, period. You was not going to convince me to marry a woman who had kids or who was even taking care of grandkids. You wasn't going to do that. Do you understand? But the moment men say this, they're beat up for having a standard. And so what I am coming to the table and saying is, hey, let's have an intellectual conversation from somebody who's been there, done that, got the t-shirt, came out. And when I was in it, I wasn't a broke, busted, disgusted dude, nor was the woman I was dealing with. But I've healed up. I was already leveled up. I healed up, recognized truth from the lie, recognized truth from the lie, because I lived it. That's why I'm able to see it and know what I'm seeing. So what am I doing as a content creator? Because I got wise wisdom around me that says, okay, Uncle Stu, I need you to be a motivator. So the best way for me to be the motivator is to say, okay, I got to find the problem, because whatever the problem is, then my job is to find a solution. So if someone said, well, the problem, Uncle Stu, is we don't know what this is. Okay, so I'm going to do this long video to explain what this is. But then in the midst of that video, I got another video that kept telling me, hey, Uncle Stu, here's something on anger. Here is something about resentment. Here's what I had to learn. I had to learn to get over my resentment. So I did a video on resentment, so that if anybody come through and they say, oh, so this is really what I'm doing. I have resentments. So now if I can heal from my resentment and understand the resentment, I can get through this pain. I can get through this anger. I can get through this frustration. Getting a man to make money is easy. It's getting a man through understand what Chicago real estate, emotional intelligence. And a lot of men maybe not have been taught emotional intelligence.
That what you just said is an awesome statement. And so I'm just here to say that, I am able to teach some of these things based upon what I've gone through.
Well, go ahead and get a platform.
I'm sorry.
I was saying in a nice way, go ahead and build you a platform. You got the phone,
Well,
you got the voice, just go ahead and put it in.
I feel like I'm going to get in where I fit in, but at the same time, yeah, I believe that I do have a voice to share and to possibly help others in regards to issues like this and many others. I've been through a lot in my life, Uncle Stu,
Right.
I mean, really, I've been through quite a bit, in these almost 60 years. And I just thank God for all of the experiences because, I don't look at them as downfalls. I look at them as it was an opportunity for me to rise up and do something else and come up from out of some things. So I'm very grateful for your platform. And I just digress. I just want to hear what everyone else has to say on the panel. I know we have Bolo up here. I'm very interested in hearing what my brother has to say, but I appreciate you just for allowing me on the panel to share, whatever it is that I had on my heart. Thank you
Yes, sir.
very
And
much.
like I said, look at the video, and if you got questions or anything, write something in the comments. Everybody would tell you, you write something in my comments within an hour, I'm responding. So, and you don't even have to agree. You can say, Uncle Stu, I disagree. I had someone disagree with me that was in my comments. I didn't delete the comment.
Yeah, that's how we should be.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Bolo.
Yes, sir. How are you?
All right, sir.
I love your comments, man. I just love listening to you speak, man.
Well,
You know,
thank you.
I love hearing you speak with the conviction of truth, with the conviction of experience, with the conviction of honesty, sincerity, humility, and most of all, with the love of Christ.
Yes, sir.
It's hard nowadays, man. It's not easy. It's hard, and we have to start respecting each other for everyone wanting to do things in a decent and orderly manner.
Mhm.
There's nothing wrong with that. So if a man wants to set certain standards up for himself, do your thing, baby. Do your thing.
Right.
As long as it's righteousness, brother, we listen, everyone is not going to see things the same way. And that's the beauty of the body.
Right.
That's the beauty of it because everyone has a different perspective. And together, collectively, we form that panoramic picture. So when I speak to Uncle Stu or Intentional Millionaire and we have that conversation, you know, I'm willing to humble myself to hear the perspective that you guys have because through your experiences in life, it kind of framed who you are as men, right? So you been in the military, I haven't. So there's a lot of things you've seen that the normal man isn't going to see, that you had to endure, that you had to wrap your mind around and take it and contextualize it and put it in perspective and then rebuild yourself. A lot of people come back from service and they're just not right. So for you to be able to keep your wits about yourself, that tells us a lot about your framework, that tells us a lot about your faith, that tells us about a lot about your patience because we have to understand each other and what makes us, right? Because scriptures tell you iron sharpens iron. So it's
Mhm.
us having conversation and having different perspectives. Will some of us be wrong? Yeah. Will some of us be right? Yeah. But the most important thing that we should take away from this is that we're brothers. We're
That's
brothers.
right.
And I think that's the most important. Well, I know that's the most important thing. We don't get off the platform and hate each other. We just say, listen, I'm gonna holler at this dude and I'm gonna talk to him and hopefully I can see his perspective better because I think when we speak to each other, we're not listening to hear, we're listening to respond,
Mhm.
right? So if I'm at, you know, a contention with intentional millionaire and him and I are going at it, and he may have the cure to cancer, but because both of us in that fight, I'm not trying to hear him. I'm just trying to get my point across. And I think that's the issue that we have as men. If we can put up a framework or a construct where as men we can speak, and sometimes it may get loud. However, if the construct is there and the respect is there, that's what's so important. The respect. I know that he's not here to hurt me. I know that we're having this conversation built on love, built
Mhm.
on the growth, most of all, in the intention of Christ. So once I understand that, I'm willing to bring down my garrisons and hear him wholeheartedly. with patience and hear everything he has to say. And I
Right.
think, that's what we need to do.
Right. We ain't signing itch. Man, I need to get that meme, man. I need that meme right there, dog.
That's a cartoon.
All
That's
right,
from a
cause
Japanese cartoon.
I'm like, now that's a cool meme right there. That's a cool. What? Okay, I know. Okay, you gonna have to start getting me up on these cartoons.
That's Dragon Ball
Uh,
Z.
yeah,
That's
Dragon
what.
Ball Z.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right, don't be
it's
making me
famous.
old and retired now.
Okay. No, well, Dragon Ball Z's been around for like 30 years, 30, 40
Yeah,
Yeah,
years.
it
that's
Yeah.
has. It has. I just didn't pick it up that quick.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm coming in on the tail end. So but I do have a question because you said heal up, and the reason. Well, I have two questions. So the first question is, what does that look like when a person is healed up? What does that look like? Because we're talking about red pill rage, and we're talking about how it's dysfunctional. I personally think it's very functional, but people are saying it's dysfunctional. So by that analysis, then what would heal up look like? A person that's healed up, as you used.
Okay, the way I used it came from the last conversation we had when we had
Okay.
the last panel, and I
Yeah.
took the concept more from JB, who talked
Okay.
about how he healed through his red pill rage
Okay.
and became a better version of himself, and then was able
Okay.
to go back to the woman that he felt hurt him and was
Yeah.
totally at peace. So that's where that is coming from, that healing
Okay.
up. And it was
Okay.
just a way that I framed it based on that background. And in the video, I made it very clear that I wasn't representing the community, nor was I, you know what I'm saying? I knew
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
might be things that other people that know about it would even disagree. And I wasn't
Sure.
even
Sure.
going to
Sure.
have that battle. It was more of, this is what I went through. This is what Intentional Millionaire went through. This is kind of the language I'm using to kind of
Mhm.
explain. And then when you say, what does it look like? It's more or
Yeah.
less almost similar to the video I dropped about resentment. Because again,
Mhm.
I got that off of Jonathan Barron because he used that word.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And
So that was
and
the
then my
backdrop of that earlier video that I dropped earlier.
okay. So that's clear. And then my second point would be that like maybe I'll share some information.
Okay.
Like because the red pill community is kind of like there's subsections in the red pill community, right? You have
Right.
passport bros, you have SYSBM, and you have others, right? So
Right.
I think that it is being processed in a kind of functional way. I just think that we're just in the new normal, and I think that people have to just kind of get used to that because for the most part, when I said it's so small, most black men in America are not red pill,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So I'm
But
just curious to
sure.
why. I'm just curious to why. Well, I'm just curious to why it's like unthinkable, like from my perspective, because I would classify myself as SYSBM or passport bros, right? Like
Right.
people believe that there's life better outside of America, both
Okay.
financially both financially and both romantically. Like well, I will be married I'll be married in February. So in a couple
Okay.
more months, I will be married, prenups are signed and things like that. So we just found a better life abroad. But
Right.
I just don't understand why it's so contentious with folks back home in our community that we're like this.
I think, and if you look at the video, because I
Mhm.
again try to let it be known that I'm not necessarily representing the
No,
community.
no, no, no. This wasn't this is not about your talking point. This is just
Okay.
just
Okay.
a question. Like for example, because it seems to be when black men in general just say, you know what, we're just going to move a different way. it's like the whole community is in an uproar. And even going back to that discussion, right? When I said that single moms should try to work it out with their fathers, right?
Right.
It was a whole uproar because I never even said like single mothers are undateable or anything like that.
Right.
I never even said that. I just said that according to studies, that it's better for the children to be in a two-parent household with their biological parents because it's psychologically better. Now I didn't say that part, but I just said she should work it out. And I said instead of asking me to step up, how about asking the person you had a baby with to step up? And that's it. I left it there. I didn't say anything more than that.
Yeah.
But even with that
Was you
standard,
here
there was
when I
like,
made the statement about setting standards and having boundaries?
yeah, I heard that. I heard that. But
Yeah, and
my
and
question,
that's what I was articulating, that
right,
when men decide to set standards and have
right.
boundaries, you
Right.
know
So
what
my
I'm saying?
question is, right.
Go ahead.
So my question is, regardless of whatever that, I'm just using that because it was common because all of us was here for that. So I'm just using that as a
Got you.
point of reference. But
Got you.
the question is I guess for you, Uncle Sue, you said standards, and matter of fact, you just said it like 20 minutes ago.
Right.
Why does the community have such a huge problem with that? That's my
I
question.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like I really don't know. I mean, I see it as it being normal. I really
Yeah.
don't know. And I even asked that question. I said, isn't that in my video? I said, isn't that a form of hypocrisy? So I don't really have the answer for that one. Great question, but I have no answer.
Right, because you said like healthy boundaries from the 90s, right? But
Right.
black men can't have that healthy boundaries, and that's kind of goes on to what I always said, like where black men are held liable, not responsible or accountable. We're held liable, and that's the kind of thing that I think that if you really want to find like commonality,
Right.
like for me, commonality, I think we have to address that. I think we have to honestly address the black man's role in the black community because I think the healing starts from there, or at least ending the gender war starts from there. If we have an honest discussion about what is the black man's position in the black community, because for red pill folks, it's a gynocracy. Women are the leaders of the community, right? You heard Kevin Samuel say that, right? We have a hyena community for people, other people like myself, we believe that black men are just the liability of the community. We're only activated when something is wrong and expect to fix it. And then what we're called is a concuserve, right? Our job is to sexually please black women and then to be the slave or the workman for the community. Other than that, it's black women in lead. Dr. Tia San Johnson talks a lot about that on his channel. And
I
I'll
wish
just
I
close
could
with
get
that.
him over here, but I don't have enough subscribers for him to be interested to come over here. I ain't trying to be funny.
No, I mean, I don't know him. I don't know him at all. I don't know him very well. The guy I told you was like BGS. If you want me to kind of ask him, I can ask him for you.
Yeah,
But Tia
please do.
Sean Johnson, I don't know.
Let him know what kind of platform I have, and it's more to me, it's more of an intellectual academia than it is
Yeah.
a bunch of people running back and forth and just screaming at each other. If you understand
Okay,
what I mean.
No. I have no problem endorsing you to BGS. I just don't know Dr. Tia Sean Johnson at all. I have
Okay.
I have never interacted. I just heard his platform. But BGS, I have had interaction. So I will
Okay,
definitely
cool. Yeah, please do
speak
that.
for you. Yeah, no problem. No problem.
All right. Sir Hale speaks. Let me back away from the conversation. I don't know how much you heard. First of all, salute. I got him on the platform, y'all.
Uncle Stew.
Look, you gonna have my brother on the filter getting on me, be like, yo, man, you took away one of my panelists.
Well, I just step out there when I can. When I'm around, I try to be on this panel. So that's
Yes,
what
sir.
we do.
And I couldn't get you the last time. By the time I dropped the link, you had already taken off. So, but you know what? He ain't signing itch. He's living in China, and JB was in the islands. So it was like, okay, I had to show priority because I knew they was in two different countries. So it was like, let me get them now while I got them, because they'll take off on me in a heartbeat.
Yes, sir.
So go ahead, because he asked a good question, I'm definitely going to play back the video to really hone in that question and really talk about it, really get it out.
Okay, I wanted to address something. I think it's brother Von Bryant. Did I say that name correctly?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Excellent. How are you guys? First of all, Bolo TV, the Intentional Millionaire. We ain't signing. You know, I'm saved. We ain't signing Ish. Von Bryant. What's up, y'all?
What's going on, sir?
How are you? How are you?
What's going
How
on,
are
sir?
you?
Hale speaks.
Excellent.
What's going on,
Yeah.
my brother? Good to see you again.
Good to see you. So look, I just wanted to come on here. I think oftentimes when we think about red pill, we don't think about the complexity of what's going on and why the red pill is such a thing. I think one of the things we forget is that red pill means that my entire worldview on a particular thing has been disrupted, and I might not have the emotional intelligence or the maturity to understand how to navigate through that. And so when you move to a space to where it goes from confusion to rage, as you guys know, I'm an advocate for therapy. I am in therapy myself. And one of the stages of that is anger. And in therapy, sometimes anger can turn into rage. And the reason why is because you are grieving something. There is something that has died. There is something that is no longer alive. It no longer exists, and it shatters your world. In the case of the red pill, a lot of the guys and myself have gone through it. Going through that rage is you are literally grieving the funeral of a worldview that's not really real. You know, we grew up seeing things like, you know, these Disney movies like Beauty and the Beast. And one of the things that I found out early on is because I thought that, you know, if you look at like television from like the 1950s and 40s and stuff, you would see things that made it seem like only men were about sex. That's all you would see, right? It's just men wanted sex and women were these prim and proper beings that they really didn't want it. And then part of the red pill, you realize, no, not ain't what it is. Women want it just as much as men. And if you look at movies like Beauty and the Beast, it creates this scenario where you've got this pretty woman and men have this beast like, and then what messes you up is when you start to realize that sometimes you can be with a woman who's both beauty and a beast, right? She has the same type of sexual cravings, the same attitude toward things, and then once this hits, you can no longer pretend like you don't know it, and it shatters a lot of us. For some of us, we're not red pill because of romantic relationships. We thought our mothers were a particular way. We thought our mothers, you know, we didn't know that they did certain things until we got older, and we were a witness to see some of the damages that they created. And once you see the truth, you are literally grieving the worldview, the perspective you had. And that's where the red pill rage comes from. It's not a particular event. It's not that you're being violent physically, but sometimes you can be violent emotionally. And sometimes that violence is not necessarily violence toward other people. Sometimes you can become violent toward yourself in terms of because you didn't get the love or you were rejected or you were unloved or unnurtured. You can become violent by way of negligence to your own emotional and psychological health. So I wanted to put that out there because when we talk about rage, it's so easy to think that rage manifests itself in some diabolical physical activity by which we're hurting other people. And in a lot of cases, real pure rage is us being emotionally violent and us being violent toward or being negligent toward the care for ourselves once our worldview as we know it has died. So I wanted to respond to Bryant on that part.
Thank you. That you put it in a very good form for me.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you very much, sir.
Yep, that's my piece. So, Uncle Stew, I'll wait till something else.
Was that your drop the mic moment?
Yeah, I just heard that part, and I wanted to respond to that. And I think that this is good for the ladies to understand this as well, because oftentimes men have this perspective of what women go through. Women have this perspective of what men go through. And I think what we really need to do is get away from men go through these things, women go through these things. We are all human beings with complex emotional issues. And just like women hurt, we hurt too. And I think the problem that a lot of us men have had is that we don't really have a lot of outlets to express that without it being regurgitated back to us in a way that demeans us for having those same emotions. Case in point is if I say, Uncle Stew, I was with this girl and she really hurt me. And I say the word hurt. And in an environment where we don't embrace the fact that we are human beings with complex emotional issues, we'll say, hey, man up. You'll be good, man. Look, it happened, man. It's life. As opposed to Uncle Stu saying, hey, man, talk to me. What happened? Like, how is this really making you feel? And part of the reason people become rageful is when they don't have an outlet to express themselves.
Exactly.
And so I think in our generation that we can curb some of this rage, because to Brian's point, if I'm calling you Brian, it's because I want to make sure that I'm making sure I'm saying at least one of the names right.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that we can do is we can encourage conversation like this. I went through a series of red pill rage myself. And Les, can I be honest with the panel?
Sure. I just did a video about me and Intentional Millionaires form of red pill rage, which really cycled from a conversation that I had with We Ain't Signing Itch, Bolo TV, Before the Billions, and JB. That was the one that you was in the chat dealing with, and it really went that direction. So I let it flow because that's where it flowed, So I just let it go there.
So I'll tell you what happened with me is I turned to pornography really hard because it's so easy to turn to something else so that I don't really have the risk of being hurt again by somebody and me not being able to control it. So you turn to pornography, and then you find women and you're unable to connect on a level where you guys are both getting ready to know each other. So it's just about sex and what you can get. And men who have been hurt, you can only be it can only become red pill if you cared about the woman. It's only red pill. If you've been hurt by somebody you didn't care about, it ain't red pill. It's only when you love them and you really thought it was something that it wasn't. And so when this happens, it's easier to become cold and callous to women. This is where you see pimps come at. This is where you see players come at, because it's so easy to have a harem of women than it is to risk hurt from being committed to somebody else and having to believe that they are as committed and loyal to you, to your well-being as you are to them. And so it's easy to have multiple people, because if somebody hurt you, you can just drop them and go on. The emotional investment is a lot smaller than you being with somebody that you got to work to build with. And I think a lot of men have had to learn this in the absence of fathers who were able to explain this in a healthy way, as opposed to, hey man, just go get you some, man. But like, no, man, because eventually the stuff that we do catches up to us. The emotions that we don't deal with eventually catch up to us. And no real man who's growing up and who is mature wants to continue to live his life in a way that is emotionally reckless, that is devoid of genuine nurturing love from somebody that they can trust. It's a real lonely life to live. And the way that we overcome this rage is through platforms like Uncle Stew, through which we can talk about this, and I can share that I'm hurt. And hey, look, I'm pornography is my thing, or these cigars is my thing, or give me some Hennessy. That's my thing. It'll help take some of that pain, that edge off, right? We have to have these conversations so that the suppression of our hurt does not metastasize into rage in a way that we are hurting other people.
Let me ask you a question.
Interesting.
We Ain't Signing Itch used logistically that red pill rage is numerically a small group versus, say, everybody else. And he admitted, because I even said there's levels to this thing. I totally understand Passport Bros to say, look, I'm tired of the American woman. I'm tired of just dealing with the system. I'm out. I've been overseas. I know exactly what's outside of America. So it's one of those, I get it. I understand. I can't even argue with you. Mm-hmm. But he says that sector is small. I argue, I didn't know who he was in the chat at first, but I argue that red pill is not just a YouTube thing. It's also above YouTube, which means I see it even when I'm just in and out talking to other men like, hey, I know what that is, or I've been down that road. I know the guys that is, doing drugs because they're hiding those painful moments. The guys that's drinking because they're hiding those painful moments. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can see it when I'm out and about, but am I only seeing a small group of men and it's because I've been through it, I can see it easier, or is it really bigger than that? You know, in other words, you can push back on my argument of whether it's a big or it's small. Because we ain't signing in says really red pill is small. So I'm presuming it's like small group, they get it, and then they're going out to other platforms and they're doing other things.
So let's say, I'll go with we ain't signing ish. Let's say it is really small. Okay. Cancer starts off small. Little fires turn into flames. So whether or not it's a small demographic of people is not really the metric we should use to determine whether or not it's important. Okay. We should look at the impact that this has to a community over time. And when you have men who have been, you know, who have gone through hurt in terms of like the system, you know, divorce and child law, family law, those kind of things, the paternity fraud, things like this that really stem to that point to the root of red pill. These are things that we have to deal with, regardless of how small they are. I think one of the problems we have in our communities is we wait until something is a pandemic before we actually address the issue. And whether or not it's a small segment of people who are dealing with this, I think we should measure it based off of its size, but rather it's the potential impact that it can have.
So can I respond to that?
Sure.
Okay. So let me, because I'm on my phone. Can you please repeat your name? I can't see your name. I'm on my phone.
Sir Hale speaks.
Okay, Sir Hale speaks. Okay, so actually, you know what? I agree with you. Something is small and we wait for a pandemic. I agree to that. And then you mentioned something, paternity fraud, no fault divorce, child support, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because when we're looking at red pill rage, we have to kind of deviate. We have to deviate Generation X and up, and like the older millennials, and then mid millennials down to Gen Z, especially Gen Z, because Gen Z doesn't have the same type of quote unquote red pill rage. Because you have guys like Fresh and Fit. This is a side note, so I don't want to focus on that. I just want to kind of delineate to get a clean basis of where we're at. So you have guys like Fresh and Fit that's showing guys that, hey, the Disneyfication of relationships and the Disneyfication of interaction between men and women is not what you think. And then they have 6 beautiful women from Colombia, from Miami, wherever, that collaborates, co-signs, and reinforce that message. So then you have guys like that that's like, well, wait a minute. If girls are like that, then I'm going to be like this, right? And I'm not going to get married, whatever, etc. Right? So you have 2 different types of red pill rage. Men who have experience, such as Generation X, and then millennials and up. And then you have people who have seen it and just say, I don't want any part of that. But now landing the plane, is very interesting that you're saying that you kind of classify this as a problem that's kind of waiting to happen. If I misrepresent, I apologize. But like you said, you used the analogy of cancer that metastasizes. It's very interesting that red pill leanings or red pill's idea is the cancer as opposed to the paternity fraud, the no. Let me
clarify.
Okay, please.
Yes, so not the men, but the issue. So when I'm talking about these things, and I actually I use a metaphor, I'm not talking about the people. I'm talking about the issues that the people are dealing with in this community.
Okay. So because to me it's very, because like for example, I red pill rage. I'll share. I never shared this before, but I'll share. I was my first engagement. I was engaged to a woman. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to say I was engaged to a woman. Sure. I was making a lot of money. I was the regional director for Sinopec, right? So Southern East Asia. My territories were South Korea, China, Philippines, and Thailand, right? And my job was to build marinas and yachts for yacht clubs. So that was my job, right? Lost my job, fell on hard times. In China, she bounced, she dipped, she left me because I was no longer making enough money. Because when I had money, things were good. I was paying my rent, I was paying her rent. She never had to spend for anything, never wanted for anything. Then she dipped, and she dipped when I was jobless and poor in China. And so for me, I like to study and to see why things happen. So this mistake doesn't happen again. And then a friend of mine introduced me to the red pill space actually. And from there I learned and I processed and then I understand, okay, this is what I need to do. So that's kind of my red pill rage, quote unquote, because now I set kind of standards. And in the beginning, there were very draconian standards on how I operate and entertain and interact with people and with women. So, but that's how I process, right? I process as this is the failure. These are the things that why the failure happened, and now here are my safeguards to reassure I don't make those same mistakes again.
Yep.
So, moving forward, so the whole point of this is to say that when we talk about red pill rage, people process it differently. And a lot of times when we need to address the issues and the things like that, it seems to be, and I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, I'm happy to, it seems to be that we want to start with the men first. And from my understanding, I don't know, I really don't see the logic behind starting with the men first.
So what do you mean by that?
So for example, this panel talking about healing up, which is absolutely what you should do. So I do not have a point of contention on that because Uncle Stu is right, healing up. But when we're talking about paternity fraud, when we're talking about no fault divorce, that solely rests at the Western woman's feet, right?
I
Men,
understand what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
Right, and we have very little power, especially black men, very little power. So my whole thing is that the one thing I am grateful for Red Pill is that it's getting you the knowledge, and the tools to help you succeed in the dating world. Because a lot of folks in the Red Pill space are very functional.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for sharing this, your story about being red pill. That's how it happens. If you generally, when you're introduced to this space, something hurts you. And I told you, it's hard. You don't become red pill unless you cared about that person. So
no, unless you're Generation Z. Generation Z is introduced, especially through the guys like Fresh and Fit. Because actually, I was introduced to it, right? So a friend recommended me.
So the difference between the generations, between these gens, is expectations. I'm 34, so part of my expectations were, more of the traditional. The younger generation is different. Boundaries of gender roles, things that, relational roles, all those things have changed. So the perspective is a little different. So absolutely, Fresh and Fit actually cater to that, and so it is a little bit different. So absolutely a great point. To that,
but because those guys don't go through red pill rage because they haven't lived that, right? Because like I said before, you said you're 35, I'm 43. Most of the space you hear guys 35 and up. You will not hear guys 18 to 25 because breakups are commonplace at that age. But you'll see how they're moving based on the red pill kind of talking points that they hear from social media and YouTube. Right, because at 25, at 18, you're not getting engaged, right? You're not.
Well, that's not true. I got married at 19.
Well, I mean, the average person, I mean, I'm broad strokes, right? It's not commonplace for 18-year-old males to be getting engaged, right? It's not.
So let me push back just a little bit. So what you're saying is factually correct, and I don't want to go against your personal experience and then your research. You may have more on this than I do, but I want to speak to the point about us starting with the men. Here is why I think it's so important that we do. We can go, I can go and marry somebody abroad because they are more ready, that they are more prepared, they're cultured correctly. I'm going to get along a lot easier. But I have to think about this in the larger context. Now, this is not to say that if you love somebody and you just happen to love somebody who was of a different culture, live in a different place, who was cultured differently, that you shouldn't go. If you find love, I don't care where it is, you go where love is. But when we can't leave the community and build it at the same time. And as it pertains to here in the Americas, I don't think that leaving and saying, forget this, let me go abroad and find it, is going to be a long-term solution to the problems we have here. As a matter of fact, the Western culture is rubbing off in different places. So us running to a different region to get more peace or to have a different experience, it's not necessarily the fix. I think it's us addressing the problem here. To the issue about the court system, I do think that it is unbelievably slanted in favor toward women. However, I don't think that men are powerless. I think that we have to become guys who get into the law, who are more vocal about things, who don't just sit around, and which most of us are not doing, but we're not sitting around just discussing the issues. We're finding a way to get into positions of power to where we can actually do something about the issues, right? So we're going to need more officials, more judges, more people who represent us in the law, people who are helping to pass legislation, people who are helping to make these moves, and then generating a level of awareness. Now, here's the issue. Watch this. That we're not only bringing attention to the issues, but we're doing this even if it causes us to lose money, to lose ratings, to not get sales. Because a lot of the reasons why we're silent on issues that matter is because it
it's
affects
financially
our
lost.
bottom line. Exactly.
Right.
It affects our bottom line.
Why. Yeah. So sorry, I have to go. I have to run, but I just want to say, great talking to you. I would love to like have a time that we can be on a panel together, because even though I take issue with a lot that you said, like running away, whatever, but I do think there is some more discussion needs to be here. But my meeting is here, so. But I will say this, because absolutely right, because I do a joint venture here in China with a prestigious university back home, right? So the stuff that I said, like even the stuff that I said last week on Uncle Stew's, that would have got me fired, or that would have broke up my partnership with that American university. So to make a long story short, I mean, like finance matters, and for men, absolutely, you like, if we speak like this, you'll lose your job. But sorry, I have to run. You guys enjoy, and I'll hear you on the replay.
All right, appreciate you.
Take care.
All right.
Okay.
Sir Hale Speaks, he said something, and I hope I got it right, because I don't want to misquote something. The question was, because I brought up setting boundaries and setting standards, and he asked, why is that a problem when it comes to men doing that? I personally couldn't address it because I didn't see what the problem was, but then maybe you've heard things that I haven't heard, because I'm not in the red pill community. I would even argue I can't really say I'm manosphere, because I ain't never heard nobody in the manosphere say, hey, we recognize Uncle Stew in the manosphere. You know what I'm saying? But I protect the manosphere because I'm a veteran, and I protect Black men's right to speak.
So I protect our manosphere.
That's right. So, and so, again, I'm sensitive about saying if I'm down with one group versus another, because, on YouTube, it can get real tricky if you ain't citing everybody's talking points.
Sure.
But I am, a person that says I am about promoting my brothers the best way that I can, and getting women to understand the men they want to love and be with. So I even try to let women know, hey, if you got questions, come up on the panel. And if you're afraid to come up on the panel, because I'm not the one that's going to beat you up and attack you and cuss you out and call you all kinds of out of way names. I'm not going to do that. But you can even talk to me in the back channel. You can email me and say, you had this discussion and this person said this on the panel, and I might have to bring that person back and a panel around that topic so that they can get better understanding
of
what's going on, and not just a bunch of men screaming and yelling at each other, or just going after women. And it's like, okay, I can't talk about the 5 or the 10% that's doing stupid stuff. I'm not going to answer that. I'm going to answer these guys that may not have the vocabulary to say what they say. Because I remember being on a panel, maybe I was on Anton Daniels' After Talk, and we're having a nice discussion. This dude jumps on the panel and say, Black women, Pooh Yang stinks. I'm like, okay, I can't talk for that. I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, you wasted your time to come on the panel just to say that, like, so I can only deal with men who may have certain talking points, and it's like, okay, well, let me see if I can explain what they're trying to say.
You know something, Uncle Sue, that's a great point. And that's what the enemy does. Anytime that clarity and understanding can be given, his job is to break that up, because now there is no confusion. And the Most High is not an author of confusion.
Right.
So when you're talking about the 10% of the young men that are, the 10% usually make the most noise, you know what I mean, opposed to those in the manosphere that is actually doing the work and actually helping these young men gain clarity. And I think that's the issue. The issue with us as a whole, especially with black men, like Sohail said, is the information is not readily available. For instance, I'll give an example. A lot of us assume, especially black men, we assume that when you have a child, and let's say you two are not working out, that because a birth certificate is signed, that the woman is granted custody, and it's not so. So it's a heavily leaned rumor. That birth certificate is just a document that proves that two people witnessed a child being born. This is why when you go to court and child support is established, this is when someone is given custody. Most of the time, it's the woman. So what we need to understand is you need to petition the court for joint custody, regardless of whether you guys are breaking up or not. So we need to understand the law. A lot of us don't. So, like Sohail says, we operate from a side of ignorance. And that ignorance is what cripples us. So we think that we've already lost when no, you haven't lost. She's just the primary caretaker. She's not the custodial parent until child support is awarded and a custodial parent is awarded primary caretaker of that child. So it's just information like that. If we have panels set up this way to educate the young men that have made a mistake, and now we can actually educate you so that you don't continue in the mistake, right? Because if I mess up and I fall off, for me to fail, it's only a failure if I don't learn from it. If I do learn from it, it's called a life experience. And that's the whole point. So, when you have men, Intentional, Vaughn, Sohail, and you, when you have panels like this is why these young men, this is why panels like this is not going to gain traction. Because we have to understand the world that we're living in. The world don't want this truth. They don't want
Very
this truth.
unfortunate.
There are going to be men that are going to search for truth, and they will find it. Because if you're looking for truth, it's in your spirit, you're going to find it. There are some men that just don't want to hear it. This world don't want to hear the truth, because if you realize that you're the issue, what do you become? The solution, right? So he mentioned specifically Fresh and Fit, right? And there's a lot of things that went on around that particular podcast, as far as selling a lifestyle that they were living,
Right.
and so that's the point, right? Because there are certain podcasts in the manosphere that encourage the dysfunction in our behavior, instead of growing us up and saying, listen, this was the mistake you made and you paid for it. Why you paid for it? Now you have a child with a woman. You don't want to be a child's mother, but unfortunately, it is what it is. So now here's this teachable moment. Here's where you learn. So now I'm going to grow you up in pain. So now you can be on this panel and be that testimony and say, fellas, you need to have penis, discipline. You need it, because if you don't, you're going to end up like me. You don't want to be like me. And we don't have enough enough men standing up here and saying, listen, I'm swinging this red flag and telling you don't make the mistakes that I had. Men standing up for themselves, especially black men, I applaud it. It hasn't been done in a long time, right? So it's about time that men start to stand up and say, the same accountability and responsibility you're putting on me, I'm going to point the finger at you and say, you need to do the same thing, because the law is heavily weighted towards women's side and not being fair. And that's the issue. So what Sir Hale says is that we operate out of ignorance, and we need to learn the law so that when we walk into that room, we're not behind the 8 ball. And understand something, ignorance is a form of fear. So when you walk into that room and you're ignorant, you're fearful, you already lost. Where is Christ in that? Christ don't deal with fear. He deals with strength. He deals with understanding. So the onus is on us to do the research so that when we go into that war, we know the enemy that we're about to fight.
You know, can I respond to? I want to respond to something Bolo said, and this is maybe I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Fresh and Fit, the rest of the panel, but I actually, yeah,
Yes,
I actually
I'm
went.
familiar with them.
Yeah, actually, when I went and looked at that content because my goal was to be objective. Of course, there was a riff that went on of maybe about a month and a half ago, particularly about the lifestyle. And so what I do as a content creator is I work really hard not to take the dominant opinion and automatically take that on and assume that that's the truth. I go and I investigate, and my goal is to find something good. If there's something good that's being contributed to the community, then I like to focus on that. So while I don't agree with the total lavish lifestyle, this is what you do, you level up to get a woman, I'll tell you something that Fresh and Fit does do well that I'm appreciative of is that they show men how a lot of women think. I think that's a benefit all by itself, is to show, because a lot of us men are still raised to be traditional, and this is where a lot of us get our hearts broken because we don't have the awareness to understand the dynamics of the social circles we're in, and we don't oftentimes have the skills it takes to navigate. And we don't also have the discipline to say that just because I want this person who has, this size, that size, this shape, we don't have the discipline. We go after what's popular. And so what Fresh and Fit has done is found a way to at least generate awareness to average guys about what most women want, so that they don't put themselves in a predicament to be vulnerable and to let somebody who's preying on that vulnerability exploit them. And then once that lady's done with them, they discard them, and that man is still left to pick up his broken pieces. And then now you got people who really real pure rage. So while I don't agree with the lifestyle that they promote, because I do believe in monogamy, as a man who's going on 15 years of marriage, 4 beautiful kids, I got a great wife. I'm really happy about that. I advocate for marriage. Fresh and Fit has done some good in terms of bringing awareness and capitalizing on the attention of the generation behind us. There's a demographic that I can't reach, but they've done that. And so just providing information on something you can't learn in school, I think is a benefit. It's to what Bolo said about having the information, because we operate out of ignorance. So they are contributing to the sphere in that aspect. And for that, I think we should encourage those young brothers, while they might not be on the track that we're on, let's still maintain a level of appreciation for what they're doing to the generation, and keep them close by, so that the influence and maturity that we have rubs off on them, and that we don't bastardize or isolate those gentlemen because right now they haven't evolved to the level of maturity that we think that they should be at.
That is awesome. That is
Can I just ask the question on that, Sir Hale Speaks?
Sure.
But when it comes to that, at what cost? Because when you think about, they are making the men aware, but in the same token, they creating more damage on the backside when they perpetuate and tell men to just, run through all these women. And then what ends up happening, it goes back on the onus goes back on the man.
Mm-hmm.
But the man has created so much turmoil behind them. It's basically a bunch of bodies that now because it's like a snake bite, the venom is going to spread faster than the antidote.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think about it, I just say, at what cost? Because I totally agree with you, because I actually was watching their channel, but over time you start to see certain things, and I'm just like, it's almost like a contradictory, because if you move you know, one step forward, but then 3 steps back, you're still in the negative.
And
So,
You know what? If I could I say something to that? What Intentional Millionaire just said, and I totally agree with what he just said. And you know, I have watched myself, like Sir Hale Speaks had said. You know, you want to watch to see what is actually going on, because you know I don't like to comment on something that I didn't really take my time to research or to look at. And I've looked at several of their programs or their streams. And yes, exactly what Intentional said. You know, I don't know exactly if the total message that they're sending out is a good one. You know, and I'm just the type of person who you know, I'm very leery of people that can tell me 10 truths, but on the 11th time, it's not the truth. It's like, I'm just leery to that type of foundational teaching. I don't know, but I do agree with what Intentional Millionaire just said about that. You know, it's like you're contradicting. There's a contradiction there that kind of cancels out the good part. Like this gentleman was saying that there is some good parts about what they are doing. They're making people aware. But then when you know, you just don't want your good to be evil spoken of. You know, and I feel like there's a lot of cancellation out when it comes to that particular program, and that's just my opinion, gentlemen.
Can I say this before you get in, Sir Hal? What I thought was awesome about what you said was not bastardizing them, and you know, not casting them to the wayside, and knowing that, you know, the closer we keep them, the more that they'll, you know, the maturity of the older the OGs will rub off. However, to what Intentional is saying, right? How many youngsters, how many young men are gonna actually see what you're saying? Because you're looking at their podcast from a mature mind. You feel what I'm saying? You're looking at it from a man that's had 15 years, 20 years, 30 years of marriage, that has gone through things. These cats, their demographic is 18-25. So you're looking at young men that have not had that experience, because what's the best teacher? Experience, right? So they haven't had that. So what they see is the women that they bring in, the way they ridicule, because even when you look at the background of it, the women will tell you, listen, we thought we were coming in here just to talk, and you guys are pulling out pads and pencils and SAT papers, and we just came in here to drink. So even the setup of it is disingenuous. So, you know, it gives these young men a disingenuous picture of what the majority of women look like. You dig what I'm saying? So they automatically go into a relationship thinking that what they saw in Fresh and Fit was what the majority of women, not all, but the majority of women move like. And we 5 on this panel are old enough to say, I see what they're trying to do, and they're trying to capitalize and pad their pockets. But when you're saying
that's true.
When you're saying to these young men that are coming to you for help, because that's what they're doing. Remember what Uncle Stew was saying. These young men are looking for guidance, and you're telling them you need to give me $1,000 an hour. $1,000 an hour of young men that have this red pill rage. Because remember what you said, that red pill rage comes from someone that I cared about. This woman that I loved with all my heart, and she took my heart and threw it out in the street, and 10 cars ran over it. A chick that I don't care about, I don't have no red pill rage. I move on to the next. If you're not building me up to say, well, let's talk about why she did that. Why is it the last 4 girlfriends did this to you? Obviously, the problem can't be them. It's the people that you're attracting. So what we need to do is build you up and get you right. So now when you go out there and find that chick, you know the right questions and the right character to look for. This is not what they're giving. You dig what I'm saying? So I understand not throwing them away. I'm 100% with you on that. However, what Intentional said, he was 100% on that.
Yeah. So let me respond, because we got 3 different ones. So let me get a couple words in here real quick.
Yeah, they came at you 3 different ways.
but it wasn't for me. It wasn't necessarily at certain.
I know.
It was not my intention at all.
let me respond to this. So, a lot of us, how many continents are there? How many countries
7.
are there? How many countries are there?
Thousands.
Can we say that we have all traveled on all 7 continents to every single country, to every single state?
No.
No.
I think we have to look at this in terms of experience. That Fresh and Fit are giving from the pool of their resources. They're giving what they have. If they could give a different level of maturity, I think that they would. And just like us, when we were 20s and we're 19, 20, we had some foolish thinking as well. We thought we were telling our guys and putting them up on game, telling them how girls really are. At that age, we were giving what we thought we had. The difference between them is that they've monetized the information that they're giving, right? So that's one point. The second thing to this is they don't just talk about that. I appreciate the fact that they talk about investing, they talk about fitness, they talk about business. And so this is what I'm saying. I don't want us to have a myopic view about what they're providing, but I know that we've put we put a lens on this to kind of, see this because this is what we're talking about. But I said that they're doing some other good things as well that I think is great. And on this panel, one of my goals is to never be found speaking ill about other men who are trying to give good based off of the countries that they've traveled, right? So if they're giving information and insight based off of what they've experienced, and it is helping in some area, let's let them do that. But then let's also try to pull them in to give them our experience where possible, because ultimately, if their perspective is wrong, experience is going to teach them that, and they'll be back 5 or 10 years from now, and their thinking will be more mature, just like all of ours were. So that's what I'm saying. So I understand that you're saying at what cost, and I understand that because they have such a voice, what they say amplifies and it resonates and it has a lasting impact. I'm just saying that if we can't mute their microphone, I'm just saying, why don't we work to get in their ear? At least we can give them some wisdom and some maturity so that when they speak, we're providing a level of experience and they are using their platform to spread the teachings and the maturity that we've gotten them.
Okay, let's take that as a spin so we can almost close out the chat with solutions. One of the things that I'm hearing is that we need a lesson in emotional intelligence. Can we all agree on that point?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Here's another question, and let's come up with a solution. I believe all of us on this panel is Christian, but we have to admit that they're not going to receive a straight up Bible conversation. So how do we approach them when we are using the foundation of the Bible, but they are by no means trying to hear scripture or quotations of scripture?
Okay, that's a good question.
I think you speak to them at their level.
That's it.
Yeah, and
You
I agree with that.
you don't try to impose. That's part of your walk as a Christian, is you speak to people where they are, not where you at.
That's right.
So that's the point. So when I go into the hood, right, and I go speak to the gangbangers, the drug dealers, and all that, we're giving them food that they're gonna understand, and we're giving them language that they're gonna understand. So if you start coming in there and start talking, you got the guy, and you coming in here,
Yeah.
they're not trying to hear that. So you have to give the examples. So the examples that I would give to the men here, I would be like, and what if Paul did this, or what if he did that? The examples I gave them was, what if 50 did this, and what if Cameron did that? Then they could understand, because I took something that they chose not to understand. It's not that they couldn't understand the biblical breakdown. They choose not to, because what Intentional just said, that doesn't resonate with them, that they have no interest in them. So when the Lord tells you, to the weak I became weak, it's not just about strength. It's talking about mental also. So you have to meet them with the understanding. That's why he tells you, make sure that your answers are elegant. and make sure that you season your answer so that you know how you respond. So the seasoning that he's talking about is making sure that you're able to speak to each individual in a way that they're going to respond, because the way Intentional likes food is not going to be the way that Uncle likes food. So if I'm going to be that chef and I'm going to have that restaurant and it's going to be personal, because remember, salvation is personal. You know what I'm saying? My job is to represent Christ the best way I know how. And how do I do that? By knowing who my targeted audience is and bringing it to them in a language that they can understand, so that they can't say, well, I don't know what he's talking about. So I'm going to bring it the way the drug dealers are going to understand it. I'm going to bring it to the way the OGs are going to understand it. So it's me sitting down and hearing Uncle Stu speak. And when I hear the wisdom that comes out of Uncle Stu's mouth, I'm going to say, okay, this is the way I need to converse with Uncle. So when I talk to Sir Hale, I hear the wisdom that comes. This is how I'm going to speak. So understand, these street cats, they got wisdom. It's just a different type of wisdom. So you have to meet them where they are so that they can gain clarity, because the Lord is looking for broken men and broken women. If you're already healed, he ain't coming for you. He's a doctor. He's coming for those that need to be healed. So he goes looking for the broken. Why? Because they have a testimony. They can go out there in the places that we can't and reach the people that we can.
Absolutely beautiful. Absolutely.
Exactly. And if I could just add, can I just add a little bit to that?
Yes.
Because Bolo said that so profoundly. But getting down and being down to earth. A lot of us are so heavenly minded that we're no earthly good, And sometimes you need to approach the situation in a practical standpoint. Even when Jesus was speaking to people, he used parables. He broke it down so that it was earthly plain, even to a 5-year-old could understand it. There was a sower who had a seed. He went to do this and that. I mean, and so you break it down, you get down to where they are so that they can understand where you're coming from. Now, for me, a lot of times I may quote a scripture, but I won't say the Bible said this or the Bible said that, or I won't say that, in Romans 10:8, it says this or that. I will just simply speak that truth of what it says, because that just puts it out there. I didn't tell you where that came from. You could reject that or receive it or whatever, but I didn't say where it came from. But I just spoke the truth to you, And I believe that whenever we do this and we do it sincerely and we're being led by God's Spirit, when we do it, that the truth of God will not leave from where he is,
That's right.
And return to him void, but it will accomplish what he sent that truth to do.
Let me just add this to that.
And I would add too, all this good talking over here.
I'll let you go first. Good. I'll let you go first then, Sahel.
No, you'll see, y'all blessing me. This good. Y'all give me some points for tomorrow morning. I should have said that on TV. Edit this out on
No, don't worry about. Look, I think on a broader term. I think on a broad term. So it's like, look, I already told somebody that because I done been on his. I was watching his show, and he had a topic. And then he came into the chat. I said, "I'm letting you know I'm speaking on that topic on my." So he gave me all love. He was like, "Go ahead."
Look, I just want to say this because what you're saying is profound and it's from the heart. The beautiful thing about the Bible and the God we serve is having the same religion is not required for love and compassion, right? I think one of the things that we learned from Jesus is that conversation always came before conversion. And so I think that it's going to be incumbent on us to spend time understanding them, not for the sake of, I want to change them to be more like us, but to understand them, Jesus was oftentimes found at parties. His reputation almost took a hit because of where he used to hang around. But you can't preach to people you can't relate to. And so I think the first thing is finding some common ground where we can relate, where we might not have the same faith, but we have some of the same shared experiences. And if we can create a bridge, we can create a connection. And if we can create a connection, we can have a conversation. If we can have a conversation, we can create change. So I think it's going to be us building that bridge to create some relatability so that they know that we're not saying, hey, you're the devil, we're saved, come over here. Because right, we got to create some relatability, because at the end of the day, they are men just like we are. They're trying to go through life and trying to win. And if we can connect on that level, I think that goes over well.
Let me add this
Exactly.
to that.
And we have all sinned. We have all sinned and come short of the glory of God. So let's not get beside ourselves. You know what I'm saying? That even the scriptures say, if I can freely talk about the scriptures now, you know, if you confess your sins, he's faithful and just to forgive you of your sins and cleanse you from all unrighteousness. Now that's the scriptorial quote, but at the same time, it's a truth. And I don't have to necessarily say it that exact way to convey that truth to someone. I can break that down in a different way down to the level of the person that I'm speaking to, you know? And so this thing is so inherent. This word, this knowledge, this wisdom, this truth that God has instilled inside of all of us to be able to share it. You know, and thank God that many of us on this panel have this type of foundation. I'm loving this conversation right now, you know, and I feel so comfortable in it because I watch so many different platforms, like we've all spoke about earlier. And I don't know if I would feel comfortable to get on that platform, but at the same time, you know, I may get the unction to do it at some point, but I'm loving the way that the conversation is going. I've learned so much, gentlemen, tonight. You know,
let me just say this.
Definitely.
And I've always said to you, Vaughn, every platform is not meant for everybody.
Word.
That's right.
So Hale Speaks, you said something. Also, you spoke about Fresh and Fit, and you said that they teach finance,
finance, fitness, investments. Lots of different things.
They on Tuesday they got level up kind of Tuesday thing, and where they teach different areas that help guys kind of level up.
They talk about crypto too.
Yeah.
Well, all right. It gives me a different angle to go at, because I think I got an idea.
I see the muscles in your brain moving, baby.
Oh,
yeah,
definitely.
he's working on something right now for sure. He's definitely doing that.
I see you in the lab. But let me just throw this out there too. Let's all remember that the scriptures tell you one man planteth, another man watereth, but it's God that gives the increase. I think a lot of the times we get caught up into trying to convert. And that's not our job. Our job is to drop the knowledge and let the Lord work in his time. And remember and understand this, that when we take this word and give it, it's about transformation. The Lord is transforming us into apostles. It's about relationships. It's not just about it being an instructional manual. When you look at the entirety of the Bible, it's God's love story to man. So we need to sit down and understand and meditate in him. So when he says in Exodus 14:14, be still. All you need to do is be still, and I'll fight for you. Lord is telling you, just have a relationship with me. So when you're talking to these men or whoever you're talking to, what links you to them is that relationship that you're forming with them, so that when you take this knowledge, you're able to give it to them and it will resonate with them. And don't get it twisted. Even in them being in the street, they're spiritual. So they'll spot a faker from a mile away. So be authentically you in Christ.
Gotta do that. Awesome. Awesome.
Well, I think I've come up with some solutions based on this conversation. Yes, sir. Hale Speaks, you're allowed to take whatever you need off of here and make it work, because one thing about me is I believe in elevating everybody around me while I show who I am before everybody. You know, that's the principle I come from. I didn't get here by myself, so there's no way in the world that, you know, I can do it by myself. You know, so I try to surround myself with strong men, you know, and not always yes men. Some men is going to say, hey, nah, you getting ready to go to the left. Don't go to the left. Bring that on back. Just like when you and I had that conversation, I said, hey, let me bring this to you. That way I make sure I ain't emotional, that I'm thinking with some logic. And then in the end, it was like, Nah, we ain't talking about that on this platform. You know, we gonna just let that go. I let everybody else have the intellectual conversation, but you know, here it's because I'm recognizing exactly what needs to be discussed. I can't talk about the past. Intentional Millionaire and I went to a play. We went to a play, enjoyed the play, and then I recognized that in the conversation, I said people don't even understand what they got in their hands.
Mm.
You understand? Like I'm because I'm a businessman, and I'll admit now, Intentional Millionaire done dropped a book in my hand. So ever since he did that, it's like, oh man, I've been on fire. But I recognize that, you know what? These people don't even recognize what they got. But the problem is they ain't got the connections to take them to where they need to be going. So it's like, y'all working on this platform, but y'all got $1 million idea right here. You know, and it's like, okay, when he eat and I eat and we rest, I'm picking up the phone. Attention, million. Do you realize what they got? You know, what do we need to teach some people what business is really about? And because these people got a gem on their hands and they solving problems. They solving community issues. They solving youth issues. They solving problems in such a simple way that they need money funneled to them right now. Would you agree, Intentional Millionaire? He might be eating right now.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree 100%.
Yeah. And me and him, we're asking them from a business standpoint. They didn't even understand the language we was talking. You know what I'm saying? It was simple words. It was like, okay, they don't even realize. Okay, we're going to have to go back, teach these principles, educate people on this so that they can see money when they see it. And money doesn't always mean, you know, filling up your pockets. Mm-hmm. It could be simply, hey, why don't you put this money over here, which is going to be a tax write-off, but look at the benefit that your tax write-off is going to be able to do. It's power. But gentlemen, as the church would say, if all hearts and minds are clear, yeah, y'all bringing me back to the church house now. I want to thank everyone in the chat. You could have been on anybody else's panel. I know there are panels that is talking about all kinds of topics, but you chose to be here with Uncle Stew and his panel, and I do not take that lightly. I know it looks good to be able to look up in the left-hand corner and say, oh, I got 100 people in my chat. I got 300 people in my chat. But you know what? Jesus only had 12, and he was able to convert 12 into 3,000. So for some of you that has just now subscribed, I look at you as my tribe of 12. And with 12 of us doing the work, we can do a whole lot if we're willing to do the work. For those that subscribe, hit that like button. Check out some of my videos. I will be dropping more videos to emancipate, which means to free your mind, and your body will follow. Definitely going to be moving this platform in a much academic but practical way. So I just want to thank you, and I don't take any of y'all lightly. I salute the panel. Appreciate your time. Go be with your wife. Go get that food. Go do whatever you got to do. And again, I don't take each one of y'all lightly for coming here and supporting me and speaking your real truth.
Unc, thank you for having me, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir Hale, internet,
anytime. It's always a pleasure.
Intentional, Vaughn, man. Listen, I pray that the Lord blesses all of you guys, bless your families. He covers you. I pray that, He
Yes.
encamps his angels around everything that you have and everything that you will be,
Mhm.
and he
Mhm.
uses you to be the light in this world that's getting so dark. Thank you so much, brother, for allowing me to be up here. And it's so awesome to be in these guys, to be in your presence, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And with that said, emancipate your mind and the rest will follow. Salute. Love y'all all. Stay blessed.
Peace.
Peace.
Good night, fellas.
Good night,
Good
brother.
night.
Peace.